I woke up in the middle of a crowd, my head spinning. Somehow, I'd traveled from the modern world into the body of a man named Shi, same name as mine, living in an ancient dynasty called Great Chu, in a small town called Shiguan. People around me were shouting and bidding on prisoners. The local officers were selling them off during a drought that had lasted 2 years. Everyone was desperate. A big, strong woman was holding up a millstone, and rich men were fighting to buy her, offering silver coins. Then a man with an ugly mole on his face came up and mocked me. His name was Lu Zhigao. He used to be a servant for my family back when we were wealthy, but after my father died, he started pushing me around. I talked back to him coldly, which surprised him. The old he would never have done that. I looked down at myself. I was poor. All I had was 1 pound of rice on my back. No money at all. The old he had been dreaming about finding a wife even though he could barely feed himself. I shook my head at how foolish that was. I was about to leave when I noticed a woman no one else was paying attention to. She was dirty and thin from the long journey, but underneath the dust, I could see she was truly beautiful. Pale skin, sharp eyebrows, calm cold eyes. She stood tall even in chains, proud and quiet. She looked like a hidden jewel. I asked Lu Zhigao if my pound of rice could buy her. He laughed like crazy. Other people laughed too and told me to save my rice for food instead. But then Lu Zhigao chased them all away. He thought he was tricking me into wasting my only food. He called me, brother, and told me to hurry before someone else took her. He thought I was a fool he could always control. But my heart was racing. 1 pound of rice for a woman this beautiful? I stepped forward and offered my grain to the officer. The whole crowd went silent and stared at me like I was insane. And the woman, she looked at me with confusion in her cold, clear eyes. No one had ever looked at her directly before. Everyone had treated her like she was cursed. My heart was pounding when I saw her eyes, so clear and pure. I had to stay calm though. If I showed how excited I was, someone with more money might step in and take her. The officer looked at my patched clothes and straw sandals and frowned. He warned me that the woman had been coughing the whole journey and that most people thought she was sick. He told me not to bring trouble on myself. Before I could answer, Lu Zhigao jumped in. He called me his younger brother and begged the officer to let me have her, even kneeling on the ground. I was surprised. I almost felt grateful to the fool. He was only doing it to trick me, but still. I rubbed my eyes hard and squeezed out some tears. I told the officer that my family had no elders left, and that Lu Zhigao couldn't have children, so I was the only one who could carry on our family name. If I couldn't marry, our bloodline would end. I begged for mercy. The woman heard all this and trembled with anger. She thought I only saw her as a tool for making babies. But then she looked at the soldiers by the gate and stayed quiet. She knew going with them meant death. Lu Zhigao didn't catch my trick at first. He knelt and repeated my words, then suddenly realized I had basically called him unable to have children. He glared at me, furious, but couldn't figure out if I did it on purpose or if I was just stupid. The officer got tired of the whole scene. He grabbed my bag of rice, handed me the woman, and told me to go home. I thanked him fast and took her hand before anyone could change their mind. Her whole body shook when she felt my rough hands, but she had no choice. It was either come with me or face the army, and that meant certain death. People in the crowd whispered behind us. They called me a fool, said I was bringing bad luck home. Someone recognized me as the simple young master from Stone Ox Village whose own uncle stole his family's property. Lu Zhigao sneered, enjoying every moment. He loved watching me suffer. I ignored all of them. I had things to buy for the village, so I took care of that first. On the road home, the woman walked even faster than me, almost running. She wanted to get as far from those officers as possible. She wouldn't talk to me no matter what I said, but I kept looking at her. She was tall, graceful, with long, straight legs. From my modern eye, she could have been a model. I smiled to myself. Those townspeople had no idea what a treasure they passed up. When we finally reached my home in the village, I wanted to cry. It was a tiny, crooked wooden hut that looked like it would collapse in a strong wind. 2 small animal hides hung at the door. I searched the whole place for anything useful, but the only thing worth having was a bamboo knife. The woman looked around and said softly, "Your home is very poor." I almost choked. Obviously, you don't need to remind me, but I told her not to worry. I wouldn't let her go hungry. I told her to wash her face while I went to the back mountain to find wild vegetables or something to eat. I warned her not to wander off because the nearby villages were full of my enemies, and there were tigers and wild boars in the mountains. She asked if I wasn't afraid she'd run away. I told her it was for her own safety to stay put. Then I grabbed the bamboo knife and headed into the mountains. The most important thing right now was finding food to fill our empty stomachs. In my past life, I never knew what real hunger felt like. I spent my days comfortably, wasting time on the internet. But now, standing in these mountains, I could feel the danger of starvation in my bones. I went deeper into the mountains to find food. The woman stayed behind at the house. It was safer there than wandering around with wild boars and tigers roaming about. What I didn't know was that while I was gone, she washed her face in the stream behind the house. Once the dirt came off, her true beauty showed. Fair skin, soft eyebrows, bright eyes. She was even more beautiful than I had guessed. She also found my stone hoe and went to work in the small vegetable garden. Most farmers in Great Chu already used bronze tools, but mine was just stone. That's how poor I was, the poorest of the poor. Lu Zhigao had come back from town and sneaked over to spy on my home. When he saw her clean face, he was stunned. He turned red with jealousy. He couldn't believe that I, the fool he loved to mock, had brought home such a beauty for just a pound of rice. He tried to get close to her, but she held up the hoe and warned him coldly that she was sick. That scared him. In these hard times, getting sick meant death. But he couldn't stop staring at her. He left, promising to come back later, already planning to humiliate her in front of me. Meanwhile, I was struggling in the mountains. After 2 years of drought, there was almost nothing left to eat. The villagers had already eaten every animal they could find, even mountain rats. The rabbits were too smart to catch. The trees had no fruit. The wild vegetables had all been dug up. But I found mushrooms. People here were afraid to eat them because some were poisonous, and they couldn't tell the difference. I could. I also dug up some kudzu roots, which people here didn't eat either. I remembered that the original Shi had saved about a pound of cooking oil over the years, meant for his future wedding feast. Poor guy. His life had really been miserable. As I searched through his memories, I realized something important about this world. It was similar to ancient China, with poetry and exams, but the technology was very low. They had no iron. Everything was made of bronze. They didn't even know about crossbows. That gave me an idea. In my old life, I worked in a factory making traditional handcrafted items. I was skilled with my hands. If I could build a crossbow, I could rule these mountains and hunt all the food we needed. I gathered the mushrooms and roots, cut some wood for making a crossbow, and headed back down the mountain. But when I got home, I saw Lu Zhigao standing at my door in just his trousers, looking disgusting. He was banging on the door, telling the woman to open up, saying I couldn't take care of her and that she should be with him instead. I never expected Lu Zhigao would come to my house while I was gone. When I got back, there he was at my door, half-dressed, trying to get the woman to open up. He wasn't even scared when he saw me. He frowned and told me to go back to the mountains. He said the woman was his now, and asked if I had a problem with that. He'd been bullying the old Shi for so long that he thought he could say anything to me. I said nothing. I just looked around for something to use. He got even angrier and started yelling. He said the woman had nothing to do with me, that he was the one who begged the officer for her. He called me useless and said I didn't deserve a wife. That's when I grabbed the stone hoe and swung it right at him. He never saw it coming. He hit the ground hard, eyes wide open, completely shocked. I shouted that I bought her with my own grain and that he was nothing but a former servant. How dare he think about touching her? I swung again. He rolled away, but his arm was already bent, probably broken. He pointed at me and threatened that the village would drive me out. I didn't waste time talking. I threw the hoe aside, jumped on him, and punched him in the face. His nose bent sideways. Blood poured out. I kept slapping him until his face swelled up like a pig's head. Still not satisfied, I grabbed a stone, pressed his hand flat on the ground, and smashed it. He screamed so loud it echoed across the sky. He stared at his twisted hand. Then the pain hit him all at once. He broke free and ran, cursing and crying. I chased him until he disappeared. Inside the house, the woman had been watching through the window. I could tell she was scared of me too. She was worried I might hurt her the same way. I knocked on the door and asked if Lu Zhigao had touched her. She said no. I asked if she needed anything. She said no. I told her I'd make some food and she could come out to eat. She said she wasn't hungry. I didn't push it. I went to the stream and washed the mushrooms I'd gathered from the mountain. Then I found the oil the original Shur-E had been saving, heated up the clay stove, and started cooking. She was peeking through the door crack, watching me. I could tell she was confused. People in this world didn't eat mushrooms because they thought they were all poisonous. She'd even seen servants die from eating wild ones back in the palace. But I knew which ones were safe. Soon, the smell of cooked mushrooms filled the air. I could hear her stomach growling from inside the house. I told her again to come out and eat. The smell was making it hard for her to say no. The woman warned me not to eat the mushrooms. She said she'd known since childhood that they were poisonous. But I knew better. I filled a chipped clay bowl with mushroom soup and took a sip. The flavor was rich and wild. In my old world, anything labeled wild was expensive. I told her not all mushrooms were poisonous, but she didn't believe me. She planned to eat tree bark later instead. I left a small portion of food for her and got to work on what really mattered, the crossbow. After what I did to Lu Zhigao, he'd definitely come back for revenge. I needed a weapon for protection and for hunting to earn money. Night fell quietly. The mountain breeze rustled the treetops. My hands moved fast. All those years working with tools in my past life were paying off. A repeating crossbow slowly took shape under my fingers. Inside the cabin, the woman had fainted from hunger. When she woke up in the middle of the night, she was shocked to find that I hadn't touched her. She couldn't believe it. During her exile, she'd seen too many women mistreated by men. She'd expected the worst from me. Then she panicked. She thought maybe I'd been poisoned by the mushrooms. She rushed to the door and peeked out. But there I was, full of energy, working away. She was confused. I laughed out loud when I finished the crossbow. It was a simple model, no iron for a proper trigger, just wood and string, but it worked. I carved some wooden arrows, loaded them up, aimed at a tree, and fired. The arrows flew through the night and hit the trunk with solid thuds. The woman stared through the doorway, amazed. Her family had served in the military, so she knew weapons, but she'd never seen anything like this. A bow that could shoot multiple arrows without much effort. I checked the tree and figured the range was about 60 meters. Not as good as what I'd made in my old life, but enough for hunting and self-defense. Once I earned some money, I'd buy cowhide and horn to make it stronger, and bronze for metal arrowheads and triggers. Then a bigger idea hit me. This world only had bronze, no iron, no steel. What if I could smelt iron and forge steel? I could make weapons that would be unbeatable here. The thought excited me. All those years as a craftsman hadn't been wasted. That's when the woman came up behind me and asked what the crossbow was. I turned around and, well, she was dressed very lightly under the moonlight. I caught myself staring and looked away. She frowned and crossed her arms. I told her it was called a repeating crossbow. She'd never heard of one. I said I was going to the mountains to hunt some rabbits. I pointed out the mushrooms I'd left for her and told her to eat, then hide in the cellar under the straw floor if Lu Zhigao showed up. Before I left, I asked her name. She said coldly, "Knowing my name won't do you any good." I smiled and thought, fine, you can't run away anyway. I've got plenty of time. Then I headed back into the mountains with my crossbow and wooden arrows. After I left, she went to the tree where I'd been shooting. 2 wooden arrows were buried deep in the trunk. She was shocked. She couldn't believe wooden arrows could pierce a tree like that. While I was gone, the woman had been thinking hard. She realized that if her father's guards had owned a bow like the one I made, he might not have been killed. She was so curious about my crossbow that she gave up her plan to escape that night. Her hunger won in the end. She couldn't resist the smell of my mushroom soup. She tried a tiny piece first, and the flavor was so good she couldn't stop. She ate everything, even licked the pot clean. Then she washed it, went back inside, and hid in the cellar like I told her to. Meanwhile, I headed into the mountains. Right away, I ran into trouble. Wang Dahai, the best hunter in our village, was standing on the only path with a group of young men, bragging about his skills. The moment he saw me, he started mocking me, calling me the shame of the village. He said my father was once a great hunter, but I turned out completely useless. I tried to ignore him and keep walking. Then an arrow hit the ground right by my foot. I turned and stared at him with cold, dead eyes. I didn't say a word. Something in my gaze made them all go quiet. They could feel it. I wasn't the same spineless Shur-E who used to kneel and beg. The air grew tense and heavy. When they finally stopped provoking me, I slipped into the bushes. They laughed nervously behind me, calling me a fool pretending to be tough. They joked about the sickly woman I brought home. What they didn't know was that I was crouching right there in the bushes with my crossbow aimed at them. If I hadn't decided to avoid trouble, they would have been my prey that night. I held back my anger and went another way. Soon I spotted a rabbit eating grass. I aimed, fired a few quick shots, and it dropped. The crossbow was incredible. That whole night, I barely missed. I even hit a wild boar, but its hide was so tough it ran off before I could finish it. By dawn, I had more than 20 rabbits on my back. Each skin was worth 1 coin, and 5 skins could buy a pound of rice. The meat alone was about 10 pounds. My hunger problem was solved for now, but I stayed careful. I hid the crossbow deep in the mountains before heading back. A weapon this powerful didn't exist in this world yet. If anyone found out about it, I'd be in serious danger. I had to keep it secret until I was strong enough. As I was leaving, I heard Wang Dahai and his group nearby, laughing and praising him for another successful hunt. When I walked past Wang Dahai and his group that morning, carrying more than 20 rabbits tied together with rope, their jaws dropped. They had worked all night and caught only 3 small rabbits. Meanwhile, I was soaked in rabbit blood, looking like something out of a nightmare. Wang Dahai demanded to know if I caught them all by myself. I turned and gave him the same cold stare as the night before. Nobody dared say a word. I told them yes, and asked if they wanted to take them from me. One of them quickly said no. I told them to stop bothering me and walked away. Behind my back, they tried to explain it away. They said I must have stolen from someone's traps, since I couldn't even hit a cow standing still. They couldn't accept that the village fool had outperformed their best hunter. Along the path home, the village women gathering wild vegetables stared at me in shock. Some of them had always bullied the old Shir-E and thought about taking my catch. But one cold look from me shut them up. They could tell something had changed. When I got home, the woman had already woken up and was tidying the house. When she saw me covered in blood, the first thing she asked was whether I was hurt. That made me smile. I teased her, saying I'd gotten myself a good wife who worries about her husband. She didn't like that, too forward for her taste. I asked if she knew how to handle rabbit fur. She said yes and told me to rest. I told her not to push herself and that I'd cook for her after I slept a bit. That surprised her. In Great Chu, men never cooked. If a wife didn't cook, she'd be scolded. But I wasn't from this world, so I didn't care about those rules. She carried the rabbits to the stream to clean them, and I went inside. The house had been tidied up nicely. The straw was neatly arranged instead of scattered everywhere like a dog's bed. Having her around already made a difference. I lay down and fell into a deep sleep. My little hut sat on higher ground, a few hundred meters from the village. My father had once been the village chief, a famous hero in the Green Bull Mountain area. But he was betrayed by his own brother, my second uncle, and killed. After that, the uncle stole all our property and kicked me out to live alone in this broken shack. Many villagers were my relatives, but the worst one was my 4th aunt, Shifengxian. She always tricked the old Shir-E into giving away whatever he hunted. When she heard I'd caught more than 20 rabbits that morning, she got so excited she practically ran to my house, already counting the money in her head, over 30 coins worth of skins and meat. She showed up at noon, calling out sweetly, "Your 4th aunt came to see you. I've been so worried about you all these years." But then she spotted the young woman inside and stopped cold. "And who are you?" she asked suspiciously. I was woken up by my 4th aunt, Shifengxian, crying loudly outside. She was putting on a big show, talking about how she dreamed of my father and how worried she'd always been about me. I recognized her voice right away and felt annoyed. My father had 6 siblings. Most of them were terrible people. My second uncle stole our property. My 4th aunt loved taking advantage of me. The 5th and 6th uncles helped the second uncle when my father was killed. Only the 3rd uncle's family was decent. I yawned and told her she was giving me a headache. She almost lost her temper, but then she noticed the pile of rabbit skins and forced herself to stay calm. She put on her caring elder act. She said times were hard and that I should learn to save money. I just smiled and said, "I understand." That threw her off. The old Shir-E would have been grateful and handed everything over. Then she got to her real purpose. She offered to help me sell the rabbits and keep the money safe for me. I told her she should ask my wife about that. The woman by the stream heard me call her my wife and looked annoyed. She thought I was taking advantage again, but she stayed quiet. My aunt pulled me aside and whispered that I shouldn't let my new wife control the money. She said the man should be in charge. I told her that two people living together should respect each other, and that my wife would have the final say. Then I asked for the 30 coins she'd been saving for me over the years. Her face twitched. The truth was she'd never saved a single coin. She took everything for her own family. She mumbled something about needing to discuss it with her husband. She tried a different approach and went after the woman instead, acting friendly, trying to get close. But the woman ignored her completely, cold as ice, just quietly doing her work. The aunt stared at the rabbit skins and meat on the wall, practically drooling. She was desperate to take it all home. Finally, the woman spoke up. She said we were starving too, that I had risked my life hunting in the mountains, and there was no reason to hand anything over to someone else. That set my aunt off. She slapped the woman across the face and yelled at her, saying she was just a bought wife who had no right to make decisions. I rushed forward to stop her, but before I could, the woman slapped her right back, calm and expressionless. My aunt was shocked. No woman in the village had ever dared to hit her. She raised her hand to strike again, but I grabbed her arm from behind. I said, "Try hitting my wife again and see what happens." She couldn't believe it. She sputtered that she was my fourth aunt, that I would side with a stranger over family. I told her firmly, this woman was my wife, and from now on, she would be the one managing our household. The woman froze. Something in her cold eyes softened, just a little. I could tell that no one had ever stood up for her like that before. My aunt screamed that I was ungrateful, that she had treated me like her own child all these years. But we both knew that was a lie. I finally snapped at my fourth aunt. I told her to stop pretending. Other than my third uncle, every one of my relatives had betrayed my father after he died. I told her never to set foot in my house again, and to pay back the 30 coins she'd stolen from me over the years. She stormed off, shaking with rage, threatening to send my second uncle after me. I spat on the ground behind her. After she left, I crouched down beside the woman and noticed the 5 red finger marks on her face from my aunt's slap. I asked if it hurt. She didn't answer. Typical. I put my hand on her forehead. She froze. I could tell no man besides her father had ever been that close to her. She asked coldly what I was doing. I told her she had a fever and asked her to open her mouth so I could check her throat. She resisted at first, but I used a firm tone and she reluctantly opened up. I have to admit, being that close to such a beautiful face made my mind wander for a second. She caught me swallowing nervously and got suspicious. I quickly said her throat was sore and told her to talk less. Then came an awkward moment. When I pressed her tongue to check, she closed her mouth as I pulled my hand out, and it made a little popping sound. She was furious, thought I did it on purpose. She looked at me with disgust and walked away to hang the animal hides. I felt embarrassed. It was just bad timing, nothing more. I followed her and asked how long she'd been coughing. She said on and off, but clearly didn't want to talk to me. I went to dig up some wild ginger growing nearby. People in this world didn't know it was edible. I also picked some herbs by the stream. I heated the pan, poured in oil, and started cooking ginger with rabbit meat. The woman watched in shock. She thought I was being incredibly wasteful with the oil. In the village, families used just a tiny dab of fat in boiled water and called it soup. But I used oil freely, the way I was used to in my old life. She silently judged me. In her mind, no wonder I was so poor. I had no idea how to manage a household. I cooked a pot of rabbit soup, added some vegetables from the garden, and set it on the old table. I told her to eat while I took care of some things. She frowned and scolded me for using 2 pounds of meat and too much oil. She calculated that the whole pot of food could have been traded for a pound of rice. She really was good with money. I laughed and told her not to worry. 2 pounds of rabbit meat was nothing. From now on, we'd eat rabbit and fish every day. I'd hunt more in the afternoon, prepare everything tonight, and trade it for grain tomorrow. If we worked together, our life would only get better. She sat down at the table, her back perfectly straight. You could tell she came from a good family. She watched me toss some grass-like herbs into a boiling pot of water and raised her eyebrows. "What are you doing?" she asked. I told the woman her illness wasn't serious, just tonsillitis, some swelling in her throat. She didn't know what that word meant, but I couldn't really explain it any better in terms she'd understand. I set a bowl of rabbit soup in front of her. She took a small sip with her delicate lips, and I could tell she loved it. The wild meat mixed with fresh ginger had a rich, deep flavor. She couldn't stop herself from taking another big gulp. She asked what gave it such a special taste, and I told her it was ginger. It removes the bad smell and adds fragrance. I asked if it tasted good. She said coldly, "It's acceptable." That was her way of saying she liked it. We sat together at the old table in silence. It felt peaceful somehow. After eating, she went to wash the dishes at the stream. I was sticky and tired from walking all night, so I jumped in the stream to wash up. The body I'd inherited was actually in good shape, strong muscles, healthy build. When I walked past her with my shirt off, I caught her glancing at me. She quickly looked away, and I noticed a faint blush on her face. That made me smile inside. I asked if her throat felt better. She paused, then realized the pain had eased a lot after drinking the herbal soup I'd made. She wanted to know the name of the herb. I told her I'd trade her name for the herb's name. After thinking it over, she said, "Wang Jijiao." I repeated it softly. "Beautiful name." I told her the herb was called fish mint. She'd never heard of it. That didn't surprise me. This world was still behind in so many ways. I grabbed a basket and headed back toward the mountains. My mind was racing with purpose. I needed to survive, grow stronger, and one day get revenge for my father. Hunting was my first step toward building real wealth. While I was gone, Wang Jijiao had a visitor, a little girl about 5 or 6 years old with 2 small braids and bright eyes like black gems. She came running up, crying, afraid that Wang Jijiao had killed me. Wang Jijiao quickly calmed her down and explained I was just out hunting. The little girl's name was Shi Qianqian, my third uncle Shi Kang's daughter. Of all my relatives, my third uncle was the only one who truly cared about me. When my father was killed by the bandit leader Humazi, my second uncle wanted to hand me over to the bandits. But my third uncle stood up for me. He even cut off his own arm in front of Humazi to save my life. Without him, I wouldn't be alive. Little Qianqian visited me almost every day. She loved her big cousin. She immediately started calling Wang Jijiao sister-in-law and asked when we'd have a baby. Wang Jijiao was embarrassed but felt drawn to the cheerful little girl. They started chatting, and Qianqian told her all about me. Meanwhile, back in the village, my fourth aunt Shi Fengxian was fuming. She couldn't believe I'd spoken to her that way. She stared at the animal skins hanging in her own house and burned with jealousy, feeling like the ones at my place should have been hers. Back at my fourth aunt's house, she was fuming about losing those rabbit skins. Her husband, Qiu Wanfu, came home from the mountains looking defeated. After a whole night, he'd only gathered some wild vegetables and 1 rabbit. His legs were covered in bloody cuts. When she told him I'd caught over 20 rabbits in one night, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. He couldn't believe the village fool had done something like that. The two of them marched over to my house and stared at the pelts drying outside, their eyes burning with jealousy. Qiu Wanfu was practically drooling, already thinking about stealing them. But before he could make a move, a voice came from behind. My third uncle, Shi Kang. He was a big, one-armed man and the best fighter in the village. He lost that arm saving my life years ago, cutting it off in front of the bandit leader Humazi. He caught them red-handed and scolded them sharply. "Get out of here, and don't let me see you near Yi's house again." They ran off like guilty thieves. Even with one arm, my third uncle hit harder than most men with 2. All the siblings were terrified of him. After chasing them away, he met Wang Jijiao and spent some time telling her about my life story. That afternoon, I went deep into the mountains to hunt. Along the way, I saw villagers gnawing on tree bark and complaining about the government. Some were even talking about joining Humazi's bandits. Times were that desperate. I kept my crossbow hidden and went straight to the edge of the deep mountains where nobody would see me. I hunted until nightfall and came back with nearly 30 rabbits. My basket was so full I couldn't carry any more. When I got home, Wang Jijiao was awake, waiting for me. She'd been hiding in the cellar but hadn't slept. My third uncle had told her everything about me during the day, how my father was killed, how I was betrayed by my own family, how I never lied or schemed against anyone no matter how hard life got. She seemed moved by it. She was also worried I'd been attacked by wild animals in the mountains. When she heard me outside, she crawled out of the cellar right away. She said, "I was worried people from the village might come bother you while you were gone. I'm glad you're safe." That surprised me. She took the basket from my hands without being asked. Then she told me my third uncle had come by and made some arrangements. He wanted me to take the animal pelts to someone called Lord Song tomorrow. said he could get me a better price for them. When I heard third uncle, warm memories flooded my mind, especially the image of him cutting off his own arm and kneeling to save my life from Humazi. I told Wang Zhijiao to set aside 3 rabbits for my third uncle's wife. If my aunt knew Wang Zhijiao was family, she'd protect her in the village while I was away. Wang Zhijiao corrected me sharply. I'm not your wife. Then she told me she'd made rabbit soup the way I cooked it during the day and went off to wash and prepare the hunted animals. I didn't mind her coldness. I actually liked her stubbornness. It made things interesting. I looked around the house. Everything was tidy. The pelts were clean, and she'd even turned over the vegetable garden. When I tasted her soup, my eyes lit up. She'd improved the flavor. This woman I'd bought for a pound of rice. I liked her more and more every day. We worked together until late that night. I slept outside the house, giving her space. At dawn, I packed up all the processed skins and meat and hurried to town. My third uncle worked as a guard at Lord Song's mansion, a wealthy landowner with a big house, red gates, and over 30 rooms. Uncle Shirkong only had one arm, but he was still one of the best fighters around. He earned 10 pounds of rice a month there. He met me at the back door, patted my shoulder, and told me he'd arranged a deal with Steward Wu. 2 coins per fur, 3 coins per pound of meat. He also said the Song family would be hiring servants next month, and he'd put in a word for me. He said having a job at the Song house would be like wearing a protective charm. Even Humazi wouldn't dare touch someone under Lord Song's roof. The deal went smoothly. I sold 24 rabbit skins for 68 coins and 30 pounds of meat for 90 coins. That was 158 coins total, more money than the old Shi had probably ever held. But then Steward Wu blocked my way. He was a greedy man with a thick mustache who squinted down at everyone. He wanted a cut. My uncle signaled me to play along, so I handed over 10 coins respectfully, apologizing for not knowing the rules. Wu threw the coins back at my face. He called me worthless and said 10 coins wasn't even enough for tea. My uncle begged and flattered him. Wu finally named his price, 120 coins to get me a position at the Song house. He said once I was part of the Song family, Humazi couldn't touch me. Then he called me a dog. I was furious. This man was not only robbing me, but insulting me to my face. My uncle tried to negotiate, explaining I'd just gotten married and needed money to survive. Wu sneered and said someone like me was lucky to even find a wife. Then he walked away. Outside, I couldn't hold back. I cursed him, greedy, dog-like bully. I swore I'd deal with him someday. My uncle stared at me like he didn't recognize me. I took a deep breath and calmed down. I asked him if refusing to pay would cause trouble for him. My third uncle reassured me. Steward Wu could scold him, but couldn't actually fire him since he was personally hired by Lord Song. Still, he was upset about Wu's greed. Then he went quiet and squatted on the ground. I could tell something was really bothering him. He told me that in a few days, Humazi, the bandit leader from the mountains, would come to collect his monthly payment from the village. Everyone on Green Bull Mountain had to pay him or risk losing their heads. The government never stepped in. The worst part was this. My uncle had heard rumors in town that Humazi had been having nightmares about my father coming back for revenge. So he decided to kill me, just to be safe. That's why my uncle was so desperate to get me a job at the Song house, where I'd be protected. He looked at me with pained eyes and told me to take the money and run away with the girl. Leave Green Bull Mountain entirely. I could see how much it hurt him to say that. He'd always treated me like his own son. But I told him I wouldn't go. I had a plan. If Humazi pushed me too far, I had my crossbow. I could fight them all if I had to. But that was a last resort. Instead, I asked about other fur traders in town. The prices at Steward Wu's were too low. My uncle mentioned a new shop run by an outsider named Wang Chaoxing, but warned me the local wealthy families were bullying him. He told me to stay away. Then Steward Wu shouted for him from inside, and my uncle hurried back to work. Watching him go, this once proud fighter now running like a servant at someone's command, I felt a deep sadness. He'd sacrificed everything for family. He reminded me of the worn-out middle-aged men from my old world, swallowing their pride every day just to keep their families fed. I found Wang Chaoxing's shop. He offered 3 coins per fur, much better than Wu's price. I even talked to him about working together to challenge Lord Song's grip on the local trade. He thought I was crazy and didn't take me seriously, but I'd planted the seed. After that, I bought supplies, 10 pounds of rice for 50 coins, and a few pieces of fried dough for half a copper. I didn't dare spend more. I needed to save. On the walk home, I made plans. Hunting couldn't last forever. The animals in the mountains were almost gone. I thought about what businesses were thriving in town. Grain was king during the drought, but the local merchant had a monopoly. There was no plant oil in this world. People only used animal fat. That gave me an idea. The mountains were full of tea trees, and tea seeds could be pressed into oil using traditional methods I knew from my old life. If I could start producing plant oil, that could be my path to real wealth. But first things first, I had to survive and build up some money. When I got home at noon, calling out, "Jijiao, I'm back," my stomach dropped. Sitting in front of my broken table was my second uncle, Shi Zhongyun, the man who stole my father's property and tried to hand me over to Humazi. Next to him sat his dog, Lu Zhigao. Wang Zhijiao was sitting across from them, quiet and still. The scene was tense when I got home. My second uncle, Shi Zhongtian, was sitting at my table like he owned the place. Lu Zhigao stood behind him like a loyal dog. Wang Zhijiao sat across from them, quiet and cold. My second uncle spoke to me in his usual commanding tone, the way he talked to everyone in the village since he took over as chief after stealing my father's position. He told me to come over, that he had something to say. I ignored him at first. I walked to Wang Zhijiao and gave her 2 oil cakes I'd bought in town. I told her my third uncle had helped me get a good price for the furs, and that she should eat. Lu Zhigao got angry that I was ignoring the village chief, but I shut him down fast. I told him it wasn't his place to speak about your family business and called him a vicious dog. My second uncle silenced Lu Zhigao with a single glance, then got to his point. He said Humazi's men would come in 3 days to collect debts, and it wouldn't be good for me. He told me to hand Wang Zhijiao over to him, said she should stay at his house for safety. I saw right through him. He knew Humazi wanted me dead, and he had no intention of helping me. He just wanted to take Wang Zhijiao for himself as a concubine. The man had no morals at all. I smiled and said my affairs were none of his concern. Zhijiao wasn't going anywhere. He was shocked. The old Shi would have obeyed without question. He asked if I was defying him. He said I caused my father's death and now wanted to drag a girl down with me. Wang Zhijiao spoke up herself, "I won't go," then walked away without even looking at him. She didn't show him an ounce of respect. I could see a flash of murderous rage in his eyes. I told him my wife was willing to share hardships with me, so he didn't need to worry. He warned me that next time Humazi's people came, he wouldn't speak for me. I fired back. I was alive because of my third uncle, not him. He'd never once stood up for me. Then I said something that really got under his skin. I told him that being a dog for Humazi wouldn't lead anywhere, and reminded him why my father had once rebelled against the bandits. Lu Zhigao tried to slap me. I kicked him to the ground and smashed a bench on him. He screamed. My second uncle clenched his fists, ready to attack me himself. But just then, a cheerful voice came from behind, my third aunt, Wang Guifang, and little Qianqian running toward me with her pigtails bouncing. My anger melted the moment I saw Qianqian's face. I picked her up and greeted my aunt warmly. My third aunt was a large, strong woman from Zhao village, where everyone practiced martial arts. Even the men in our village couldn't match her strength. My second uncle didn't dare provoke her. When he saw her, he unclenched his fist and left, telling us to mind our own business. Lu Zhigao limped away behind him, glaring at me with murder in his eyes. But when he noticed my aunt staring at him, he turned away fast. She'd once slapped him so hard his jaw dislocated. My aunt watched my second uncle's back and spat. "Your father was so good to him," she said bitterly. "Backstabbing traitor. Worse than a dog." My third aunt, Wang Guifang, started nagging me the moment she arrived. Why didn't I tell her my second uncle had come? She fussed over me like family should. It made me think of my parents from my past life. I'd been lonely in that world too. A warm feeling grew in my chest, something I hadn't felt in a long time. What surprised me was Wang Zhijiao. She'd been cold to everyone since I brought her home, but now she was actually talking to my aunt. And when little Qianqian ran over offering to help wash furs, Zhijiao said, "Okay," with real warmth in her eyes. Something was changing in her, though I couldn't quite explain what. Then my aunt got serious. Like my third uncle, she wanted me to run away. But I asked her, if I left, what would happen to them? My third uncle had cut off his arm and guaranteed my safety to Humazi. If I disappeared, wouldn't Humazi come after their family? Would the Song family really protect them? She slammed the table and yelled at me to stop being reckless. Her voice broke. She said she'd promised my mother she'd keep me alive. That's when memories from the original Shur-E flooded in. After my father was killed, the villagers, led by my second uncle, dug up my parents' bodies and threw them on the road outside the village. My third uncle and aunt dragged the bodies back with a cart, holding swords to keep the angry crowd at bay. Step by step, swing by swing, they fought their way back into the village. From that day on, their family was outcast too. But my aunt was too strong for anyone to hurt. I gently wiped her tears and told her not to worry. I could protect myself, my family, and our home now. She was shocked. The old Shur-E had never spoken like that. Before she left, I gave her several pounds of rice and cleaned rabbit meat. She protested, but I told her to stop treating me like an outsider. She and my uncle had carried too much weight for my sake. From now on, I would face the family's problems myself. She looked over at my parents' grave nearby and whispered, "Did you two come scare this boy in the night? He suddenly understands everything." She took the food and left. I knew she was already thinking about asking her family in Zhao village for help. They were descendants of a frontier general, all trained in martial arts. Even Humazi didn't mess with them easily. Wang Zhijiao had already prepared the rice and meat before I even asked, which caught me off guard. I couldn't help muttering, "Born to be a wife." She probably didn't appreciate that comment. A few quiet days passed. I kept hunting in the afternoons, though the rabbits near the village were thinning out. I only caught about 10 that day. In the evening, a big, strong young man showed up at my door holding 2 cow horns, looking nervous. He begged me not to tell anyone he'd brought them. His father would beat him if he found out. He was confused about why I wanted cow horns. Then he noticed Wang Zhijiao and got upset. Apparently, we'd made some kind of pact that whoever found a wife first was a beast. He'd only been gone visiting his grandmother for a few days, and I'd already broken the deal. Wang Hongtao showed up, my childhood friend. His father was the village carpenter, and he'd taken over the trade. I'd asked my third aunt to send him because I wanted the 2 cow horns hanging at his house. He was upset about Wang Zhijiao. Apparently, we'd once prayed to the sky god together, swearing that finding a wife would bring bad luck. He couldn't believe I'd broken our pact. I told him the truth. He just didn't want to be the only single one, so he dragged me into it. I let him ramble for a while, then got serious. I told him Humazi wanted to kill me. He went quiet instantly. After a pause, he cursed Humazi and told me to take my wife and run. Instead, I pulled out the crossbow and fired several arrows into a tree. 2 stuck deep in the trunk. He stared at the crossbow, speechless. As a carpenter, he understood woodwork better than anyone. The more he studied it, the more amazed he got. He called the design brilliant and asked where I got it. I told him I made it myself. He couldn't believe it, so I joked that I learned the skill in a dream from a man named Zhuge. That's why I called it the Zhuge crossbow. I asked him for a favor, to go around the village and collect fish bladders for me. He didn't understand why, but he agreed and ran off. After he left, Wang Zhijiao came over. She said plainly that Humazi had over 500 men. 1 crossbow wouldn't be enough. Resisting was foolish. I told her I knew that. She asked why I still wanted to fight instead of running. I said there was nowhere to run. In this drought, every place was dangerous. People were eating people. She went quiet. She'd seen it herself on her long journey from the capital. Then she asked about my second uncle. I told her the whole story. Years ago, my second uncle and other villagers pushed my father into standing up against Humazi. They formed a group to resist. But when they actually faced Humazi, my second uncle got scared, betrayed my father, and knelt down. My father was killed because of it. After that, most of the village blamed my father for stirring up trouble, and they took their anger out on me. Wang Zhijiao stared at me for a long moment. I could tell my story reminded her of her own parents' death. We were both people who'd lost everything. She asked if I was determined to kill Humazi. I said of course. Then she said something that surprised me. After you kill Humazi, tell others it was your second uncle's people who did it. She picked up her basket and walked away. In that moment, I realized this woman wasn't just beautiful and cold. She was smart. Dangerously smart. Huh. When Shur-E heard this, he looked at Wang Zhijiao with surprise. This wife, bought with just a pound of rice. He always felt she was not simple. Sure enough, he sensed that behind her beautiful face, there was another side. One with a heart capable of destruction. Wang Zhijiao saw his reaction and frowned slightly. She thought, How could a simple mountain villager be so cunning? She coldly said, "Take your time to understand." Just as she was about to leave, Shi spoke. "We really are a perfect match." Thinking the same thing, Wang Zhijiao paused. "Can you understand what I'm saying?" Shi continued to work on the thin piece of cowhide in his hands. He was already very skilled. "One is my father's murderer, damn him. Another is someone who betrayed my father at the last minute. If Humazi's knife comes into the village to kill people, I, Shi, wouldn't even frown. You probably don't think I'd use this bow to destroy Humazi's bandits, do you? I'm not that foolish." Wang Zhijiao's eyes brightened a little, surprised that this mountain villager had such a mind. But soon, her expression turned cold. "It's good that you understand," she said. "I hope you survive." Wang Zhijiao does not want to die, because she carries a deep-seated revenge for her entire family's slaughter. As soon as Shi dies, she will definitely take the Zhuge crossbow from his hand and leave. It's not because she's cold or heartless, but because someone burdened with deep hatred for bloodshed. Living has long ceased to be herself. In her eyes, there is only hatred and coldness. Nothing else can easily enter her heart. After speaking, she carried a basket and went to work over there. Wang Hongtao also collected many fish bubbles and brought them over. This guy simply couldn't understand what Shi was doing and kept talking nonstop. But Shi ignored him completely. He boiled the fish bubbles, crushed them, ground them, and steamed them. He managed to extract fish bladder glue. Then he began to modify the Zhuge crossbow in his hand. The reason for the modification was twofold. First, rabbits near the mountains were very few now, but wild boars were quite common. However, these creatures had thick skin and tough flesh, making it hard for the original Zhuge crossbow to pierce them effectively. He needed to increase the crossbow's power. Second, the previous crossbow could hurt people, but its range was limited. So, he needed to extend its shooting distance. That night, Wang Hongtao took some money and went to other farmers' homes in the village to buy a lot of cow tendons. The first step was to modify the bowstring. The second step was to glue the processed cow horn leather onto the bow's surface to strengthen the tension. He worked until the dog was guarding the gate at the hour of the dog, around 7 to 9 p.m., and Shi's modified Zhuge crossbow was finally ready. He measured the distance carefully in the yard. He calculated that the effective range of the crossbow reached an astonishing 100 meters. Since there was no iron arrowhead, Shi replaced the arrow with more flexible bamboo. He coated the bamboo arrows with fish bladder glue and dried them. This made each bamboo arrow more powerful when shot. Afterward, Shi wanted to test the crossbow's real combat effectiveness. He pulled Wang Hongtao and sneaked into the nearby mountains. The wind brushed past their faces, carrying the damp, decayed smell of the forest. Moonlight filtered through the branches above, and the grass nearby was filled with the sounds of insects. Soon, they saw a wild boar digging the ground for food not far away. Wang Hongtao immediately grabbed Shi and tried to leave. "E.g., that's the wild boar that dug up the village people. Don't provoke it. We can't beat it. Quiet." At this moment, Shi looked at the wild boar and felt a bit nervous and trembling. The creature was huge, much larger than a normal wild boar. It probably weighed over 300 kilograms, something he had never heard of in his previous life. In his past life, he made and sold crossbows and bows, mostly to hunters, so he knew how to hunt wild boars. But the crossbow he had now didn't have steel parts, so he wasn't sure if he could kill it. "How much do you think we could sell this wild boar for?" he asked. "Yaij, are you crazy? Can we measure this boar in copper coins?" "It could be dangerous," Wang Hongtao said, shocked. Everyone in the village would run away if they saw this boar turn around. This was a dangerous animal. "Stop talking. Help me figure out if it's worth risking. I need to know the value," Shi said firmly. Wang Hongtao saw he was serious and quickly replied, "If we take it to the town, we could sell it to the Western Gate Army. I heard soldiers there like to eat wild boar meat. Probably. This boar could sell for at least 800 coins. 800 coins, Shi thought. That's a lot. 5 coins for a jean of rice. 800 coins isn't small. After thinking for a moment, he gritted his teeth. "Let's do it. Yaij you." Wang Hongtao started. "Stay back. I'll handle it," Shi said. His heart was pounding as he slowly moved closer. He remembered from his past life that the best way to hunt a wild boar was to aim for its eyes. First, the boar wouldn't see who was shooting it, so it wouldn't know where the attack came from. Second, the eyes are the most vulnerable spot. Wang Hongtao tried to go help, but suddenly the boar looked directly at them. They quickly dropped to the ground. The boar was so big that its gaze was very intimidating. Its over 300 pounds of body was strong enough to challenge a tiger. Shi crawled forward carefully, moving little by little. He was experienced in this. His previous life had been full of such hunts. He was also a champion archer in his old world. He could easily hunt prey. Slowly, he took out his crossbow and aimed at the boar's eyes. Bang, bang, bang. 3 quick shots. The bamboo arrows shot through the night, piercing the dense forest and grass, flying swiftly toward the wild boar at the dock. Squelch, squelch, squelch. 3 arrows all hit this wild boar. 2 bamboo arrows went straight into its eyes. In an instant, the boar let out a loud, sharp squeal. It struggled on the ground for a moment, then turned and ran into the dense forest. Shi wouldn't let it escape so easily. This was worth hundreds of coins. He suddenly jumped out of the bushes and chased after it. Wang Hongtao quickly shouted, "Don't chase him, Brother E. The mountain at night isn't safe." But before he finished speaking, Shi leapt over a bush and disappeared into the forest. Wang Hongtao ran over quickly, but Shi was gone. He called out a few times, but got no response. After a while, he suddenly remembered how accurate the 3 bamboo arrows had been. 2 of them went straight into the boar's eyes, without missing. The third was slightly off, but still hit the boar's nose. He looked at where Brother E had just been crouching, more than 30 or 40 meters away, even in the dark. He was very shocked. Wow, I never thought Brother E could shoot so accurately. When did he become such a master with the bow? Wang Hongtao was very unsettled. He kept pacing in place. Staring at the seemingly dense forest, he clenched his teeth. Still worried, he rushed inside to look for him. In the dark night at Qingniu Mountain, even the most experienced hunters from nearby villages didn't dare go too deep. Wang Hongtao searched inside for 2 or 3 hours, until dawn's first light appeared in the east. He was alone, feeling a bit sad. His eyes turned red, and he returned to Shi Yi's small wooden house. Wang Zhijiao got up early. She found many small fish in the shallow creek behind the house. She remembered that her father used to love eating these small fish with wine. Every time, the uncles and older men would gather in the main hall, drinking and singing patriotic songs. Today was her father's Memorial Day. Wang Zhijiao got up early, carrying a basket, and was fishing in the creek. From afar, Wang Hongtao spoke, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. Brother E probably got into trouble in the forest." Wang Zhijiao looked back in confusion. What kind of trouble could he have? Wang Hongtao sat heavily on a stone by the stream, his nose tingling with emotion. He couldn't hold back anymore and began pounding his chest hard. "I told you not to hunt that man-eating pig." Even Wang Dahai was so scared when he saw that thing he almost peed his pants. But he just wouldn't listen. "My brother Yi's life is so hard." Really, as he spoke, Wang Hongtao struck his chest even harder, crying uncontrollably. Wang Zhijiao frowned slightly, listening quietly. From Wang Hongtao's behavior, she felt a deep sense of understanding. In a world where people sometimes hurt each other, he was willing to risk everything for his brother, showing true sincerity. After hearing this, she looked at the vast mountains. Should I go find him? A ripple of thought stirred in her heart. Although they had only been together for a few days, she felt a kinship with Shi. They both refused to accept their fate and wanted to fight against it. Most importantly, this mountain villager had been very silent and reserved around her these days. Wang Zhijiao, with her cold personality, didn't say much. She simply placed her basket in the corner and prepared to go into the mountains to find Shi. But she had just taken a few steps when she saw, in the morning light, someone carrying a huge wild boar down the mountain. Not far away, many villagers had come out of their houses, staring in disbelief. "Is that the man-eating pig from the mountain?" "Exactly. I saw it that day, and it nearly knocked me flying. Almost got killed by that beast. That's Shi. How did he manage to hunt that man-eating pig?" Wang Hongtao, overwhelmed with grief and despair, suddenly stopped crying. He stood there blankly, then asked, "Sister-in-law, slap me. Tell me this is really E.G." Wang Zhijiao looked at him coldly and said nothing. She walked toward Shi. Shi quickly called out, "Wang Hongtao, what are you standing there for? Come help." "Wow, E.G., it's really you." Once Wang Hongtao realized, tears streamed down his face as he rushed toward Shi. Soon, news spread quickly through the village about Shi Yi's successful hunt, and it was especially about that man-eating pig. Many people hurried to share the news. Zhang Lixia, Shi Yi's second aunt, felt upset after learning about this matter. She immediately scolded at home. This little troublemaker. What bad luck has he had these days? First, he raided the rabbit burrows and caught dozens of rabbits. Now, just a few days later, he even caught the most fierce and fat boar in the mountains. If he keeps getting better and stronger, and if one day he becomes confident, we might have to face his revenge. Yesterday, Shi Zhongtian went to drink with neighbors, so he wasn't at home. This woman hurriedly ran to Shi Yi's house. At this moment, third aunt Wang Guifang brought out the cart. They all worked hard to try to drag the wild boar to town to sell quickly. A few villagers looked at the boar meat on the cart with envy and jealousy. They thought it was worth hundreds of coins. Shi Yi, the most hopeless person in the village, seemed to be heading toward a better life. Several people even whispered among themselves, interested in the boar. Some wanted to come and take a share right away. But because Wang Guifang was there, everyone was afraid of her, so no one dared to act. After tying up the big, fat boar, Wang Guifang lowered her voice and told Shi Yi, "Hurry up and take it to town to sell. Everyone in the village has bad intentions. Auntie is at home, so no one will dare hurt Ji Jiao." Hearing Wang Guifang's words, Wang Jijiao felt a warm feeling grow inside her. It had been a long time since she felt cared for. She didn't speak. Shi Yi nodded and then looked at Wang Jijiao. "This pig can probably fetch a good price. Is there anything you want to buy? After I exchange the coins, I'll buy it for you." Wang Jijiao's mood was complicated. After a moment, she shook her head. "Help Qian Qian and Auntie buy some things. They are the most important people to you. I'm not." Wang Jijiao clearly felt Shi Yi's concern, but she was resisting. Because she knew she couldn't stay here forever, she still had revenge to take. If people found out about her relationship with Shi Yi, the whole village might be wiped out by his enemies. The best way is still not to get involved with him. It's also for his own good. So I suppressed the slight ripple in my heart and didn't speak. Shi Yi smiled and said, "All right, I'll handle it myself. Aunt, I'll bring you something back later." "Nonsense. After exchanging money, save it. You still need to live your life," Wang Guifang nagged. Just as Shi Yi and Wang Hongtao were pushing the wild boar to leave from the crowd, second Aunt Zhang Lixia stepped forward. She stood firmly on the meat pig. Crossing her arms, she looked at Shi Yi. "Wait, who gave you permission to sell it? This wild boar belongs to my mountain, and it's also the village's. It should be handled by your second uncle, the village chief. You have no right to sell it privately." Wang Guifang saw it was this woman. Usually fierce, she didn't dare say much now, because she knew this woman's family had someone working at the county office. In past arguments, she could only endure. Holding back her anger, she said, "Second sister-in-law, this is Yi's life or death effort from yesterday in the mountains. How could it be handed over to others? Yes, this is our village's property. Although you brought it back, you have no right to handle it. I have a suggestion. Why not share it with others in the village, one piece of meat per household? This way, the distribution is fair. Shi Yi has no right to sell it privately." The others, who had long been jealous enough to bleed, saw Zhang Lijuan lead the way. One by one, shamelessly staring at Shi Yi, they scolded angrily. Bang! A kitchen knife was swung directly at Zhang Lixia's leg that was stepping on the pig. Fortunately, someone quickly grabbed Zhang Lixia and pulled her back. Otherwise, her leg would have been cut off. The unruly villagers trying to take advantage of the wild boar suddenly fell silent. Zhang Lixia's skin was covered with goosebumps. But after seeing Shi Yi swing the knife, he immediately became furious. "Kid, you're going too far. How dare you?" Before he finished, Shi Yi pointed the knife at his face and coldly said, "If you keep making trouble, I will kill you." It was cold, terrifyingly cold. Zhang Lixia grew up watching Shi Yi since they were children. In her eyes, he was just a fool. She used to envy her older brother, who was the village chief, and she would cause trouble at home, bullying Shi Yi's grandmother. Once, she slapped Shi Yi's mother in front of everyone. Since then, Zhang Lixia has held a grudge, but she lacked the ability to get revenge. So, she would secretly pinch Shi Yi when no one was watching. Every time, this naive boy never fought back. He has always been gentle and obedient since childhood. But now, the look in his eyes was so intense, it was almost suffocating, like that of a demon. Just by exchanging a glance with Shi, this woman froze in place, speechless. Then, Shi pointed his knife at others. Shameless, if you want to take advantage, come on. Everyone originally wanted to take some advantage, feeling guilty. Seeing Shi fighting desperately, they all fell silent. Wang Guifang couldn't bear it anymore. She shouted, "Look at you all, some of you are elders in the village. For just a little bit of benefit, you've lost all shame. Isn't that embarrassing? Get out of the way." Seeing Wang Guifang also couldn't stand it, no one dared to provoke her. They knew they wouldn't get any benefit, so they quickly dispersed. Shi and Wang Hongsheng hurriedly pushed their cart away from there. After they left, Zhang Lixia's face twitched uncontrollably, muscles spasming fiercely. Her anger was very intense. She looked at Wang Guifang with a dark, gloomy expression. "Wang Guifang, I wonder how long you can protect this kid." After saying this, she left angrily. Today, she had lost face in front of her family. Wang Zhijiao came over, looking at Zhang Lixia's nearly exploding back. She said, "How can someone with such poor character be like this?" Wang Guifang shivered and quickly pulled her back. "Children, don't speak carelessly. It might bring trouble. Zhang Lixia has family working at the county office. We must not provoke her." A family member working at a small county office, and they can be so arrogant, Wang Zhijiao said, radiating a commanding presence. Wang Guifang was stunned. "Child, what is your background? I feel like you. Auntie, I need to go do something." After saying this, the cold and distant Wang Zhijiao turned and walked away directly. Wang Guifang felt a shiver run down her back. This girl had been at their home for several days, always cold and expressionless, never smiling. I thought to myself, she's probably not an ordinary person. Can our ear handle this girl? Wang Guifang was Yi's aunt, so she would only worry about her nephew. "Officer, 500 coins, plus 30 arrowheads. You can take this wild boar. Also, I heard that many officers in the army like to eat wild boar meat. I can supply it to you in the future." Behind the back door of the Westgate Army Camp's kitchen, Shi, dressed in military armor and with a big beard, stood quietly in front of a tall soldier. This man was the head of the kitchen staff. About an incense stick ago, this young man had brought a wild boar here. His offer wasn't very high, lower than the market price, but he wanted 30 bronze arrowheads. In this era, metal items were controlled by the government, especially arrowheads, which were only available in the military camp. If anyone leaked these outside, they would be punished. The head looked at the wild boar and, being quite cheeky, drooled a little. 30 arrowheads weren't a lot in quantity. In terms of value, they were a good deal for him. So, the head thought for a moment and sent someone to fetch 30 arrowheads. He also handed over 5 strings of copper coins. He said, "Kid, I don't know what you want the arrowheads for, but I warn you, don't go spreading the word, understand?" Shi bowed and replied, "Don't worry, officer, I won't cause trouble." Thinking for a moment, he took another string of copper coins and placed it in the officer's hand. "Villagers from the mountains and fields don't know proper manners, so I rely on you, officer, to provide for us." After that, he collected the remaining 4 strings of copper coins and the bronze arrowheads. He bowed to the officer and then turned to leave. The heavily pregnant officer watched Shi from behind, weighing the copper coins in his hand. This kid looks like a wild mountain villager, but he's quite perceptive. Rare indeed. Usually, hunters bringing things to the military camp were afraid the officer would give less. They always kept a close eye during weighing. But this boy didn't look at him the whole time. Afterward, he happily gave a string of copper coins. It's rare to see that. Stone E took note of him. After exchanging for some coins, Stone E started buying many supplies in the town. Of course, he also shared a lot of supplies with Wang Hongtao. This boy was always so hungry that he often lay by the water ditch drinking water to fill his stomach. Passing by a stall selling fried dough, Stone E bought him 2 pieces. He ate with his mouth full of oil, feeling very satisfied. During a drought, having something to eat and filling your stomach was the happiest thing for every common person. Soon, it was late when they returned. The setting sun was sinking, casting a gentle golden glow over the village from all sides. Well-off families had smoke rising from their chimneys, drifting softly in the breeze. On the way back, Stone E and Wang Hongtao talked a lot, mostly about how they survived during these times. After returning, Wang Hongtao worried that his elderly mother might starve, as they had been eating bark for 2 days. He hurried home carrying supplies. In front of his small wooden house, the sunset made everything look golden, like a dream. Near the house, a simple stove was steaming fragrant white rice and a stir-fried rabbit dish. The smell could be smelled from afar. Wang Zhijiao was working with a hoe in the vegetable garden nearby. In recent days, the garden, which was full of weeds, had been cleared into neat plots of earth. With the help of this third ant, they planted some cucumbers and chili seedlings. They also built a fence with bamboo. The smell of farm life was everywhere. Stony put down some supplies and took a new pair of shoes to Wang Zhijiao. "Sit down." "Why?" Wang Zhijiao answered coldly. Stone E didn't care and pulled her to sit on a stone. Then he grabbed her delicate ankle. Wang Zhijiao instinctively resisted. "How bold of you." She was freezing cold. But Stone E held her ankle tightly. "Don't move. I bought you a pair of shoes. See if you can wear them." Wang Zhijiao paused, then noticed the pair of cloth shoes beside him. She stopped resisting. Stone E ignored her. Sitting on the ground, he placed her foot on his lap. Wang Zhijiao's shoes were already very worn out. There were many blood scabs on her feet, showing what she had gone through during her exile. The soles of her feet had thick calluses. Shi slowly helped her take off her shoes and carefully cleaned the dirt from her feet. Afterward, as he put her shoes back on, he spoke. "I don't know why you were exiled," he said, "but from what I've observed these past few days, I think you might be the daughter of a noble family, because you carry a proud attitude. More than that, I can tell you're not content with this poor mountain village and that you're hiding many things in your heart. However, Wang Zhijiao, I want to tell you, in this world where survival is tough, if you don't have your own strength, don't dream of unrealistic things." Wang Zhijiao fell silent. Her initial dislike for Shi, the rustic villager, faded a lot. Thinking back over these days, though sometimes his gaze made her feel like he was a flirt, she also felt a strange dislike. But did this man really have flirtatious intentions? If it were an ordinary person, after buying her, they would have done something that first night. If she refused, she might have been harmed. And in the deeply ingrained culture of Dechu, where men are superior to women, women from noble families to commoners were all taught from birth how to serve their husbands and take care of the family. Learning music, chess, calligraphy, and painting was just to please their husbands. But this rustic villager seemed to always respect her sincerely. Every time he went hunting and sold the game in town, he never bought anything for himself, but he always brought her back a little something. While she was lost in thought, Shi suddenly took out the copper coins he had exchanged today and placed them on her long skirt. He said, "I don't know if I will survive this time. If I don't, you can give some of these coins to my third aunt. And take the rest and leave here quickly." Wang Zhijiao's fragile body trembled slightly, but her expression remained cold. "Why not give it to her yourself?" After helping her put on her shoes, Shi looked at her stunning face and smiled as he spoke. "Very beautiful." After finishing, she looked up and said, "You probably know my third aunt's personality. I would definitely not want to give her anything myself. It would be better if I left it to her after I die. Also, please tell her for me that I want to repay the kindness of their marriage in my next life." A heavy feeling grew in Wang Zhijiao's heart. She faintly guessed something. "Are you planning to take the initiative?" Shi turned back and smiled. That smile touched Wang Zhijiao's heart because it was gentle. In these harsh times, such a smile was very rare. "You're so clever. What a pity. When I brought you back, I thought I would raise you happily, fatten you up, and have a few children so we could live a good life. Maybe I am not lucky enough to enjoy that." Shi didn't notice that Wang Zhijiao was unconsciously clutching her dress. In front of the small wooden house, the atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Shi waved his hand and said, "I won't talk anymore. I need to prepare." Then he went to the water ditch nearby. Since arriving here a few days ago, Shi had been busy every day. He was covered in mud and dirt, with no time to clean himself properly, so he jumped straight into the water. Wang Zhijiao remained silent. She didn't know why, but suddenly she didn't want Shi to die like this. Not only because she hadn't figured out the story behind the bow in his hand, but also because she realized that this mountain villager was very different from other men. There was an indescribable feeling. Nearby, The cooked white rice and warm stir-fried rabbit meat were served in a pot. They were neatly placed on the table. Shi, covered in dirt and mud all day, looked like a different person after washing. He appeared a bit thinner, with very defined features. Wang Zhijiao looked at Shi and suddenly remembered her late brother. Her mood inexplicably became a little sad. She was even more reluctant to see Shi die like this. Inside her heart, the ripples grew larger and larger. If this continued, those ripples around Shi might turn into a huge storm. But Shi still needed time. What she didn't know was that all of this was just Shi playing a little mind game in front of her. This guy knew everything. This woman is very cold and distant. Normal methods can't reach her inner feelings. So during the meal, she gave a serious warning, as if facing life and death. The supplies just bought her enough for you to eat for several days. Remember, Humazi is very fierce. Anyone who opposes him will be killed, and he will drag the corpse back and publicly whip it. If my body is dragged back and whipped by him, don't hesitate. Take the money I give you and leave immediately. From now on, forget about me. Since we are not truly married, it won't affect your future marriage. Wang Zhijiao felt very uncomfortable hearing this. She cared even more about not wanting this mountain villager to die. But she was too cold and still held on to her last bit of stubbornness, not showing her feelings. Tomorrow, Humazi's men will come to collect the monthly payment, and it will also be the time they come to kill Shi. Shi plans to take the initiative and fight back. Tonight, Shi has been sharpening a bronze arrowhead, which he has changed a lot. First, he made it smaller so it can fit on the Zhuge crossbow. Second, he added many barbs to the arrowhead, mainly so that once someone is shot, they can't easily remove it. They can only die painfully. He also wanted to add poison, but he couldn't get it quickly. He was busy until dawn. That night, Wang Zhijiao didn't sleep. She cooked a meal for Shi and made sure he ate well. At dawn, the first light broke through the darkness, shining on the small wooden house. After packing the arrowheads, Shi took out a new Zhuge crossbow he made last night. He handed it to Wang Zhijiao and said, "Although I don't understand much, I know you're very interested in the bow I have. Last night, I made you a new one. You can study it yourself. From now on, you can also use this to defend yourself. Remember, don't let others see it easily. If someone with bad intentions finds out, it could be dangerous for you. The world is tough, but you must live well." After saying this, Shi walked into the mountains with a sense of solemnity, not looking back. Wang Zhijiao held the Zhuge crossbow in Shi's hand. My heart felt very complicated. I didn't speak, nor did I say anything to Shi. After Shi left a short distance, I quickly found a hiding spot. I secretly watched Wang Zhijiao's reaction. But unfortunately, Wang Zhijiao didn't even turn around. She took the crossbow and walked toward the small wooden house. I felt disappointed. Has she become so cold? Indeed, climbing high peaks is difficult. I left feeling bored. What I didn't know was that just as I turned around, Wang Zhijiao, who was at the door, also turned back. She hurriedly looked in the direction I was going and softly muttered, "Live well." Meanwhile, third aunt approached nervously. "Zhijiao, where is he? I just received news that Humazi's people will arrive in about an hour. Where is this child now?" Wang Guifang was extremely worried. Because this morning, she received news from her family. Right now, her family had sent people to hunt down bandits because someone from their village had beaten a county official. So, the official brought many people to their village to fight the bandits. They couldn't send anyone to help them. Wang Zhijiao thought for a moment and said, "He went into the mountains to hunt this morning. Third aunt, before he went up the mountain, he gave me this money. He told me to keep it safe for him." Wang Zhijiao finished and handed all the copper coins Shi had given her to third aunt. Although Shi said she could take half and escape, she didn't want to take advantage of Shi. She was already prepared. If Shi really died, she would take the rabbit skins and leave this place. That would be enough. Third aunt looked at the shiny copper coins and paused. "Is this the copper money from that wild boar?" Wang Zhijiao nodded, her eyes clear as if filled with stars. Third aunt almost cried. This child has finally turned his luck around. I'm happy for his parents. But soon, she placed the copper coins into Wang Zhijiao's hand again. "You are the lady of this family. The family's money should be kept by you. Why give it to me, your aunt?" A flicker of emotion crossed Wang Zhijiao's heart, and she looked at her with confusion. Annie-san, I only traded 1 gene of rice with Sure-E. We haven't even had a formal wedding. So aren't you afraid I might run away with this money? 5 or 600 coins can buy over 100 gene of rice. In these drought years, 100 gene of rice can feed a family for a year. In the eyes of ordinary people, this isn't small money. Auntie Sin smiled and said, Child, even though I don't know where you're from, and I don't know what you've been through to make you so cold, I advise you not to leave. I understand Sure-E. He truly cares about you. My Sure-E has been kind and caring since he was little. Don't women always hope to find a man who loves and cares for them? I believe Sure-E can support you. Just keep this money for now. If Sure-E comes back, tell him to hide in the mountains. I'll go home and prepare the monthly payment. After speaking, Auntie San turned and went home. Every time Humazi comes, each household must give 20 gene of rice or items of equal value. They pile these things in the middle of the village ground, and everyone kneels to welcome them. If someone refuses to kneel or doesn't give anything, Humazi and his men will use their knives to kill. They treat human lives as nothing. Wang Jiaoer was deeply moved by Auntie San's words. First, she realized Sure-E truly knows how to care for others. She remembered when Sure-E just returned and helped her change her shoes, especially when he carefully handled the blood scabs on her foot. Suddenly, she thought of her father's gentle look when he looked at her mother. He was so tender. This man, after these days of being with him, she saw how hard-working he was, how he fought against fate, and how clever he was. He could turn some wild mountain foods others wouldn't eat into delicious dishes, and even make those unheard-of crossbows. Second, Auntie San's words, though simple, are true. When her parents died, didn't they also tell her to forget hatred and live well? Deep inside, Wang Zhijiao's heart was stirred again. She looked at the Zhuge crossbow in her hand. She packed her things and then left the house, going after Sure-E. Regardless of the situation, she didn't want this man to die so suddenly and carelessly. On a rocky path leading into the deep mountains, the sound of a galloping horse echoed. Several men carrying large knives were riding quickly along the rocky trail. They stopped once they reached the area near Xinyu village. After jumping off their horses, they went to the side and urinated. The leader laughed roughly. Damn it! If only there were young women here for us to play with. The others also laughed loudly. Fifth brother, Xinyu village is right ahead. There are young women inside. Just take one when we get there. Isn't that enough? Exactly, just young women. On Qingyo Mountain, whichever girl we want. No one dares to refuse. They laughed arrogantly. The leader looked toward Xinyu village and shivered involuntarily. He looked at his broken fingers and felt a lingering fear. A few years ago, he came to collect a debt. He also wanted to take a young woman from Xinyu village. He planned to steal her. But suddenly, the village chief, Sherbatian, led people to resist. Those broken fingers were cut off by Sherbatian. He spat out angrily. Everyone shut up. This time, we need to be extra careful. Don't forget, the big boss also ordered us to kill Sherbatian's son. Don't let that kid kill us first. Fifth brother, we don't need to be so nervous. One man stepped forward. I admit Sherbatian is a tough guy, but his son is just a useless brat. Last time I came here, you saw how he begged and pleaded in front of me. Calling him a dog would be an insult to dogs. When the leader heard this, he looked serious, and the others quickly shut up. But soon, they burst into loud laughter. That description fits him perfectly, you're right. Calling him a dog is actually insulting dogs. Haha. Fifth brother, you scared me just now. I thought you were angry. Fifth brother, later, give me that kid. I want to cut him into pieces and listen to his screams. The fifth brother was in a very good mood after hearing this. He waved his hand. Okay, let's go. No wasting time. Then he pulled the horse's reins and mounted the horse. But just as he got on, a sharp arrow shot through the air, making a whistling sound, and pierced into his throat. The attack was sudden, catching everyone off guard. The second in command was also stunned, his face frozen, a feeling of suffocation suddenly overwhelming him. His eyes involuntarily rolled downward, and he saw a short arrow almost piercing through his neck. Gurgling sounds came from him. He quickly looked at his companion, wanting to say something, but he couldn't speak at all. Damn, second in command. Who's attacking us? Who dares to sneak attack us? Your courage is really big. We are from the Humazi gang, and you dare to. Bang. Before he finished speaking, Another sharp arrow shot out from the bushes. It firmly pierced his throat. Old Zhang, God damn it, what are you waiting for? That direction. Kill that rat hiding in the bushes. After shouting, a big man and 3 others, holding large knives, rushed forward. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several arrows flew out from the bushes immediately. All hit their targets accurately. Each arrow pierced into flesh. One person was extremely frightened. Who is ambushing us? Run, hurry, there must be more than one person in those bushes. In their minds, if it was just one person shooting an arrow, there would be a pause afterward. But so many arrows coming at once could only mean there were many people hiding in the bushes. So, in just a moment, these people no longer had the intention to fight. They quickly turned and ran. But more arrows followed behind them, whistling through the air. All of them fell to the ground, terrified, staring in the direction the arrows came from. The atmosphere around instantly turned deadly. Finally, Shi stepped out of the bushes. He was masked, with only 2 cold, ruthless eyes visible. He looked like a demon king from hell. The few people still alive on the ground. At first glance, there was only one person. Immediately, someone shouted at him, "You! How dare you? Do you know who we are?" Bang! Shi directly pulled his Zhuge bow and shot an arrow at the man. The arrow pierced into his head. His expression froze, and his eyes showed a hint of unwillingness. He collapsed with a loud thud. The remaining 2 were so scared they froze. They hurriedly crawled toward a certain place. But in Shi's mind, he saw the scene of his parents being killed by this group, and the humiliations they inflicted on him every time they visited the village. Humazi's men. He would kill them all without hesitation. None of them would be innocent. Everyone's hands were stained with the blood of people from the major villages on Qingyo Mountain. So he casually raised his crossbow and shot. A sharp arrow pierced into one man's back. The man also fell silent on the ground. Only one person was left. This person had been shot in the leg. He was smart enough to realize he couldn't escape. He quickly turned around, knelt on the ground, and desperately kowtowed to Shi. "Hero, spare my life. Let's talk nicely, don't kill me. Please, I don't want to die. You can do anything I ask. I'll serve you like a beast or a horse." Shi looked at him. He remembered. Last month, when Humazi's men came to collect monthly payments from the village, this man was also there. At that time, he also knelt before those men. This man slapped him. Then he stepped on his head and spat a few times, humiliating him from above. In the memories of his past self, these people were like towering mountains he couldn't cross. Every time he saw them, he instinctively felt very afraid. But now, it seemed, these people could also beg for mercy like dogs. Sure, he didn't trust him. He first ignored him. Then he walked over to the others. Fearing that these people might not be truly dead, he held his Zhuge crossbow. One by one, he shot more arrows into them. It looked just like the Grim Reaper walking among the living, killing. Even this ruthless bandit, who killed without blinking, felt a shiver run down his spine as he watched Shi reload the arrows one by one. After all the arrows had been shot into everyone, Shi picked up a stone from nearby. He walked in front of the man and coldly said, "Open your palm and place it on the ground." The man didn't know what he wanted to do, but dared not resist. He quickly opened his hand and said, "Sir, please don't kill me. From now on, I will be your..." Bang. Before he could finish, Shi raised the stone and struck the back of his hand. The man immediately let out a loud, painful scream. But Shi didn't stop there. He tightly held his hand and struck it again with the stone. The pain shot sharply into his heart. The man couldn't bear it anymore. He collapsed on the ground, twitching in pain. His mouth turned pale. Shi didn't stop. He struck again with another stone. One stone after another, until the hand was bloody and mangled. After finishing with that hand, he pressed his other hand on the ground and continued to strike. Finally, the man was so pained that he went numb. He lay on the ground like a dead dog, barely breathing. Shi finally stopped. He looked at him and said, "Go back and tell Humazi that I am the Wolf King. One mountain cannot hold 2 tigers. From today, his festival day is getting closer day by day." At this moment, his face showed no emotion, just like a judge from hell. The man on the ground shivered when he heard this. "Why, you really don't plan to kill me? I need a dog to go back and warn Humazi. So you're lucky. You can still live. Get lost." The man seemed to clutch his last hope and, hearing this, immediately got up and ran away. Sure, he initially wanted to shift the blame onto his second uncle, but then he thought carefully. Although most people in the village were his enemies, there were still a few families who had been kind to him over the years, and they had taken care of him. If I bring this troublemaker into the area, there's no need to say much. Humazi will immediately lead his army to attack his village. They will kill everyone inside, including his uncle's family. He doesn't want to take that risk, so he came up with a different plan using the name of the Wolf King. After the man limped away, do you think he would just go home quietly? No, he didn't. He covered his face, tidied his clothes, and rode a horse left by the bandits toward Shernyo village. About half an hour later, Shi arrived back at the village on horseback. A large group of people was waiting at the village gate, including his second uncle. When they saw the horse approaching, the second uncle quickly called out to everyone. Everyone, kneel down now. Inside the village gate is a big open space, the lowest part of the land and the center of the village. Around it are hills with hundreds of houses scattered on them. Hundreds of people inside the village kneeled at the gate, trembling with fear. Even the officials from Qingnyo Mountain couldn't control this place. Humazi is the real ruler here, holding the power of life and death. Everyone was trembling. He rode his tall horse closer to the village gate. Influenced by the memories of the original owner, he suddenly felt sad. This village was built by his father. When his father was young, he was a big landowner. Later, he fled with his siblings to Qingnyo Mountain, losing all his wealth and building many houses here. Many residents of Shernyo village are refugees. When they arrived, his father gave them free houses to settle down. Since his father died, the villagers are afraid Humazi will kill them. Few dare to come near Shi, and even the village gate doesn't allow him to enter. For several years, he hasn't been able to walk into the village through the main gate openly. He has been pushed to a small wooden house on the mountain's edge. Thinking of this, his heart grew colder than ever. He looked at the hundreds of people inside the village. His fists clenched tightly. A bunch of ungrateful wolves. My father gave you houses to live in, a place to settle down. But after my parents died, you didn't even let his remains enter the village gates. None of you are good people. Shi's heart was frozen with anger. He rode his horse quickly to the village gate. Shi Zhongtian suddenly bowed deeply. Greetings, sir. This month's payments for the village have all been collected. Please count them. Shi noticed that Shi Zhongtian's voice was trembling a little while speaking. Even the usually domineering wife, Zhang Lixia, beside him, seemed nervous. Shi sat on his horse, looking down from above. Convert all the supplies into silver and give it to me. Silver? Shi Zhongtian looked up at Shi on the horse, confused. But what greeted him was a whip. A sharp crack. The whip struck his face. Immediately, Shi coldly said, "Did I tell you to talk back?" Shi Zhongtian quickly bowed and begged, "Sorry, sir. Sorry, I was wrong. Please give me some time, sir. I will go home and get the silver." After saying this, Shi Zhongtian quickly signaled to his wife, Zhang Lixia. Zhang Lixia dared not argue and hurriedly got up, taking small steps into the house. In a short while, she returned with a few silver coins. Carefully, she held them out to Shi. Here is the silver, sir. Please take it." Shi took the silver, put it into his bag, and didn't stay long, fearing he might be caught. After taking the silver, he turned his horse around and rode away. This scene left everyone in the village stunned, until the horse disappeared down the road. Lu Zhigao cautiously looked up, confirming the person had left, then asked nervously, "Village chief, is that person one of Humazi's men? Why does he seem different from usual?" Hearing this, others also looked up carefully. After confirming, another person spoke up, "Yes, every time Humazi's men come, they always pull a cart, and there are 4 or 5 people coming. So why is only one person here this time? Not only that, why does this person refuse to take any grain? Chief, are we being tricked?" When they heard this, everyone in the village became very worried. They work hard every month to pay their dues. If a scammer comes, what will we do when the others from Humazi arrive? Suddenly, these worries spread among the crowd. Shi Zhongtian grew impatient listening to them. "Everyone, shut up. Think carefully with your brains. Is there anyone on Qingnyo Mountain who dares to pretend to be Humazi and trick the village into paying dues, unless they don't want to live anymore?" Hearing this, Others seemed to think it made some sense. Humazi is known for being ruthless and not hesitating to kill. He considers human life worthless. If someone dares to impersonate him, that person will soon be crushed. After their chief said this, everyone felt reassured. But Zhang Lixiao looked at the small wooden house on the hill with a sinister expression. Boss, this matter feels a bit strange. Isn't there news from Humazi that he wants to kill Shi? Why did this person leave immediately after taking the money? Who does Humazi want to kill on Qingniu Mountain? Has he ever broken his word? Oh no. Hearing this, Shi Zhongtian quickly reacted. Quick, bring my horse here. The calm crowd suddenly erupted in chaos. Soon, someone led Shi Zhongtian's horse over. Shi Zhongtian didn't dare to stay. After mounting his horse, he cursed loudly at the stone path. Thief! How bold of you! How dare you come here to show off and deceive us? He quickly chased after him. However, Shi, who had just received the money, ran wildly ahead. By the time Shi Zhongtian caught up, he was gone. But after chasing for about half an hour, Shi Zhongtian saw something that made his eyes widen in shock. He saw several people lying on the ground. One had a small wooden arrow stuck in his forehead. 2 others had small wooden arrows in their throats. Their deaths were very brutal. When he approached and saw the face of the person lying on the ground clearly, he was so frightened that he fell back onto the ground. Isn't this Fifth Master? Who killed Fifth Master? That's Humazi's sworn brother. Could it be him? In Shi Zhongtian's mind, he suddenly remembered the person who had just taken a few taels of silver from him in the village. Who was that young man? How dare he kill Humazi's sworn brother? Has he lost his sense of fear? After calming down, Shi Zhongtian dared not stay here any longer, fearing that Humazi's other men might come. If they arrived and saw only him at the scene, he would be seen as the one who killed Fifth Master. He also dared not chase after the young man who had just tricked him out of his silver, because that young man had killed so many people and must have extraordinary skills. Chasing after him would only lead to his own death. So he quickly mounted his horse and returned to the village. Throughout the day, Shi, after taking about 4 or 5 taels of silver from Shiniu village, decided to keep going. He started wandering around the entrances of nearby villages, specifically targeting Humazi's men. It was very successful. His Zhuge crossbow was like a powerful weapon in this world, comparable to a Gatling gun from the era of cold weapons. Whenever he shot, it was sure to kill. He searched through the surrounding villages and, by evening, had collected nearly 13 taels of silver. When he returned, he placed his horse in a cave on the back mountain. But he couldn't find Wang Zhijiao. Afraid she might be in trouble, he went out to look around. The village was in chaos. Shi Zhongtian had brought back the news that Humazi's men had been killed. The key point was that the deaths were not far from their village. Everyone was worried that Humazi might think they had killed his men. So the village elders went to Shi Zhongtian's house to discuss what to do next. Shi searched the village but couldn't find anyone. Honestly, he felt a little disappointed. In his previous life, he was a single man, never married. In this life, he admitted that when he first saw Wang Zhijiao, it was only because she was beautiful, and she was also the most unwanted girl. This is driven by a man's natural instincts. So, he bought this treasure home with a bag of rice. He thought that although the woman was quite aloof, she would eventually be conquered by him and give him many children, experiencing the warmth of family he had never known before. But unexpectedly, it turned out she really left. Brother, Sister Zhijiao, has she left our home? After returning, his younger cousin, Shi Qian, came to his house. She held her head high, looked at Shi with a round, chubby face that was very cute. Shi felt a bit sad and disappointed. He gently patted her head with a sad smile and said, "It's okay. She probably left. Later, I will find another sister for you." As he said this, he felt a bit angry inside. He thought to himself, no matter what, he had taken care of her for a few days. He was impatient, thinking she might run away at the first sign of trouble, faster than anyone else. Shi Qian heard this and was a little unhappy. "But I think Sister Zhijiao is very nice," she said. "She even taught me to write big characters. She also told me that even though she's a girl, she should learn to write." "Brother, why did Sister Zhijiao leave?" Shi grew more annoyed the more he thought about it. He turned his back to Shi Qian and focused on his own things. He replied, "Probably because she thought we were too poor." "Oh, brother, what does poor mean?" Shurqian was only a few years old and didn't understand much about the adult world. Suddenly, Wang Zhijiao's cold voice came from behind. Do you miss me that much? The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Shurqian turned around and saw her innocent little face. She immediately looked surprised and said happily, Sister Zhijiao, you didn't leave? She was very excited and ran over bouncing. Shi looked back and recognized it was Wang Zhijiao. At this moment, Wang Zhijiao was holding a small rabbit, looking a bit disheveled, as if she had just returned from hunting in the mountains. There was a moment of awkward silence before she said, I thought you took the money and ran away. When Wang Zhijiao first returned, she saw Shi safe and sound at home. She was actually very happy and excited inside. But just as she was about to speak, Shi suddenly said something that dampened many complicated feelings inside her. Wang Zhijiao quickly picked up Shikianqian. She hobbled toward the wooden cabin. I don't feel safe leaving you alone, so I want to help. But when I was walking behind, I saw some dead bodies. Then I saw your second uncle riding in quickly, talking to himself. He said those people were from Humazi. I figured you must have escaped safely. Coincidentally, a rabbit was poking its head out nearby, so I went to hunt it, which took a little time. Deep inside, she suddenly felt a warm feeling. In his past life, he was single. He grew up in an orphanage. No one ever worried about his safety, especially since he had to face the big bandit Humazi, who was still following him. So, his sad mood immediately disappeared. After Wang Zhijiao sat down, she came over, squatting in front of her, ready to hold her little leg. But Wang Zhijiao coldly said, What do you want to do? She instinctively moved her leg away. But she grabbed it firmly. Don't move. He sounded a bit stern. Scared, Qianqian quickly covered her mouth. Because in her memory, her brother was never this temperamental. Wang Zhijiao struggled a few times, but didn't move, unable to resist. Blood seeped from the hem of her pants. She ran over to the stove and brought some ashes. He applied it to the wound while saying, You're so silly. You're just a weak girl. Going over there, what could you do to help me? Luckily, you arrived just as I finished the fight. What if you had gotten hurt? After hearing this, Wang Zhijiao was initially annoyed by what she had just said. But suddenly, her heart softened. Her clear, lively eyes looked at Shi carefully, and that cold heart felt a warmth it had never known before. The icy mountain in her eyes melted a little again. Although she still looked cold, she finally looked at her little leg. This was the wound caused by a mountain stone when she was chasing the rabbit. It had been bleeding all the way back. What surprised her was that after she covered it with ashes for a while, it really stopped bleeding. So she was very surprised. Do you understand medicine? Ash from plants. Why can it stop bleeding? What's the medical principle? What Stoney didn't know was that Wang Zhijiao had a natural talent and interest in medicine since she was young. However, in Great Chu, there was a strong preference for men. Men were considered the main force of the world. Even though she was from a noble family, she could only learn music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. So her parents didn't let her get involved in other things. But she secretly learned a lot on her own. Stone carefully helped her treat her wound. Ash from plants is alkaline. Alkaline substances can stop bleeding quickly, but there is a risk of infection. Alkaline and infection. Wang Zhijiao couldn't understand these modern words. She thought Stone was strange. During the few days she stayed in the village, she met some villagers and learned about Stone from their words. But when she actually spent time with him, she found he was not as foolish as people said. On the contrary, he was very wise, with a kind of wisdom that most men don't have. Especially today, when she went to catch a small rabbit and used a bow, she felt the power of the bow and realized how strong it was. Stone carefully made a small scar on her. What made Wang Zhijiao feel even warmer was that Stone also helped her fix her pants and shoes, and washed his hands nearby. When he came back, he said, I can't explain everything to you all at once. I'll tell you more slowly in the future. Come on, open your mouth. At first, Wang Zhijiao felt very uncomfortable, especially when Stone put his finger in her mouth. She wanted to scold him and get rid of him because, since she was young, no one had ever dared to behave so intimately with her. But this time, she somehow opened her mouth without resistance. She was even surprised herself. Stone pressed her tongue with his finger and looked inside. Much better now. You've been coughing a lot these days. Keep drinking the herbal water, and you'll be fine in a few days. She wanted to say she was too thin and needed to gain some weight, but when she looked down from that angle, she saw the powerful, surging waves. The lush branches and ripe fruits gave her a very vivid impression. This sentence was swallowed hard along with the saliva. Wang Zhijiao didn't think much about it. She looked at him and asked, "Do you know a lot about medicine?" Shuri replied, "Just some basic knowledge." Basic knowledge? What do you mean? Shuri felt a bit overwhelmed, but looked at Wang Zhijiao's eager expression. He also sensed that beneath her icy exterior, she had a shy and innocent charm. He guessed to himself that Wang Zhijiao's coldness wasn't her original personality. Maybe she had experienced some big family trouble, which made her act this way now. He smiled and said, "Just some everyday knowledge." "Oh, then, can you teach me?" The chief doctor of the Daqing Palace once praised Wang Zhijiao. He said she had a good memory and understood herbs easily. Unfortunately, she was a girl. Her parents didn't allow her to learn before. But now, Wang Zhijiao couldn't hide her strong desire to learn about these things. Shuri asked, "Do you really want to learn?" "Yes." Wang Zhijiao's eyes shone with eagerness. Shuri thought for a moment and said, "All right, starting today, I will teach you." "Great, I'll go cook," Wang Zhijiao said, getting up. But Shuri held her shoulder to stop her. "You rest, I'll do the cooking." He patted the little head of Shi Qianqian, who looked a bit silly. "Big brother will make rabbit meat for you." When Shi Qianqian heard there would be meat, she drooled happily. "Really, big brother?" Shuri ruffled her hair and said, "From today on, our family will eat meat every meal." After saying that, he felt very happy and went to the kitchen. However, not long after he started cooking, Wang Zhijiao still couldn't sit still. She took a hoe and went to the vegetable garden. Shi Qianqian happily followed behind her. Wang Zhijiao dug the ground, and Shi Qianqian helped pick out stones from the soil. While picking, she said, "Mother said we should pick out all the stones so the vegetables will grow better." Everything was peaceful and happy. Later, the third aunt also came back. Seeing Shuri, she was very worried. She kept talking anxiously, but her worries showed her care and concern as an elder. Shuri felt warm inside, but he also knew the danger hadn't gone away. As long as the bandit hideout in Humazi wasn't destroyed, there would be trouble. He is in danger every day. These days, he either goes hunting in the mountains or finds a random spot near his home to sleep. In his past life, he was single, but he was not the type to stare at women on the street. Men naturally like beautiful women. But what's abnormal is when some men behave in a creepy way. Sure, he would never do that. On the contrary, he has traditional values. He believes that he and Wang Zhijiao are not officially married. Although he bought Wang Zhijiao, she still has her dignity. So, Wang Zhijiao sleeps inside the house, and he doesn't easily go through that door. At night, everything is quiet. Sure, he lies outside the wooden house, under the stars and moonlight. He is thinking about pressing tea seed oil. He already has 13 taels of silver, enough to hire someone to set up a workshop. But he cannot reveal this wealth. If the villagers find out he suddenly has money to hire someone, some jealous people might spread rumors. Even if the silver didn't come from him stealing from other villages or pretending to be a local, people might say he has a shady background. Likewise, Humazi would come looking for trouble. He already has enemies and plans to kill him. Now he's developing his strength right under his nose. Can he tolerate that? He must hide and build his power. Once he's strong enough, he will face Humazi directly. He must avenge those grudges. Sure, can we both survive? While lying at the door, lost in thought, Wang Zhijiao's voice comes from the other side of the door, full of frustration about the future. Sure, snaps back to reality, turns his head to look at the small wooden door, and then firmly says, "Anyone who tries to stop me from living, I will make them die. I don't know how long I can live, but I am sure that anyone who tries to kill me will die before I do. Don't worry, I will protect you." Inside the house, Wang Zhijiao is actually lying right by the door, resting on straw, her voice like a faint mosquito. Is that so? Her mind is empty, and she doesn't say more. Under the starry night, she remains awake. After a whole night passes, Shi Zhongtian keeps thinking and feels uneasy. He believes that if he doesn't take the initiative to clarify things with Humazi, he might really be suspected. So, after some discussion, they decided to act quickly. They took the villagers and some supplies on donkey carts and went to Humazi to explain that this matter had nothing to do with them. Meanwhile, Shi received news. Humazi was furious and organized a large group of bandits to search the mountains and the village for the person called Wolf King. Once they found the Wolf King, they would not rest until they caught him. Because of his loud actions, the Wolf King became famous throughout Qingniu Mountain. On the other side, Shi started his plan to produce rapeseed oil. First, he and Wang Hong Tao found a cave on the back mountain. The cave was at the edge of a deep mountain, rarely visited. Shi and Wang Hong Tao had discovered this place when they were children. He planned to use it as a base for making tea seed oil. Inside the cave, Wang Zhijiao and Wang Hong Tao were present. During half an hour, Wang Hong Tao kept touching Shi's head, thinking, "Is my brother really possessed or something?" He couldn't believe that tea seeds could be used to make cooking oil. He'd never heard of it before. It all seemed a bit strange. Wang Zhijiao, who was from the capital and knew a lot, also found it hard to believe when she heard Shi's idea. But she didn't comment because Shi was full of strange ideas. After a while, Wang Hong Tao thought, "My brother's nonsense is so crazy that even the old gods would be surprised." He couldn't stand it anymore and stood up, saying, "Brother E, even if you're joking, how do we make that tea seed oil you mentioned? How much oil can we produce in a day with just a few of us?" Shi replied, "It's not just us. We need to find more people. Who should we find?" Wang Hong Tao asked. "With most of the villagers like this, Hong Tao," Shi interrupted. "You tell me, during a drought, who suffers the most?" "The people who die from hunger," Wang Zhijiao said. Her words made the atmosphere inside the cave turn quiet because it was the harsh truth. Wang Hong Tao nodded and said, "Sister-in-law is right. The ones who die from hunger are the most." "Brother E, what are you trying to say?" Stony thought for a moment and took out about 10 silver ingots from his underwear, placing them on a nearby rock. When the two saw the silver ingots, they were stunned. Wang Hong Tao thought he was seeing things and slapped himself hard. After confirming he hadn't made a mistake, he looked at Stone E with excitement and asked, "Brother E, where did you get this silver?" Wang Zhijiao also looked at Stone E with curiosity. Stone E didn't tell the full truth. "I found it on the road yesterday." "Really?" Wang Hong Tao's heart was pounding. Wang Zhijiao seemed to sense something but didn't speak. Stony nodded and said, "That's not the important part. What matters is that I now have silver in my hands. Hong Tao, from today on, we will go along the road looking for those who are about to starve, especially those who are homeless because of Humazi." Wang Hong Tao suddenly understood what was happening. His body started to shake slightly. "Brother E, you don't mean to fight Humazi, do you?" Stony replied, "That's not your concern. Just do as I say. Also, don't let anyone know about what's inside this cave. From this moment on, I will slowly take back what's mine. I want to avenge my parents' deep hatred, bit by bit." After speaking, Stone E looked out beyond the cave at the lush green scenery, showing an unwavering determination. Wang Zhijiao, standing nearby, felt her heart tremble after sensing Stone Yi's strong resolve. Because she also carried a deep grudge, she could empathize with the anger in Stone Yi's heart and his tragic resolve to fight back against fate with his life. Wang Hong Tao, though a simple villager, understood what Stone Yi was saying. After discussing for a long time, Wang Hong Tao left the cave. Although he doubted what Stone Yi was planning at this moment, he thought, "If Brother Yi can really succeed, then maybe we can stand tall from now on." His passion was ignited. After he left, Wang Zhijiao, who had been silent, looked into the distance with her clear eyes filled with complex emotions. After a long while, she softly asked, "Are you hurt?" Wang Zhijiao is a very clever person. When she saw Shi take out 13 taels of silver, she already guessed what was happening. She thought that Humazi and his men were probably killed by Shi. Deep inside, she was actually impressed by Shi's quick and decisive actions. It was strange. Shi was not from this world. When he bought Wang Zhijiao, it was only because she was very beautiful. In the past few days, the two of them had never sat down quietly to share their thoughts honestly. Yet, Shi always seemed to find a sense of understanding with Wang Zhijiao. Now, he realized that Wang Zhijiao probably already guessed what was going on. He thought to himself, "This girl is really smart and quick-witted." He smiled and spoke in a relaxed way, "I am not hurt. As for other things, don't ask. From today on, this place will be our secret base. We will continue to live in that small wooden house, just like before, okay?" Wang Zhijiao nodded after hearing this. She looked cold, but he could clearly sense a hint of trust in her. That was exactly what Shuri wanted. Then, the two of them tidied up inside the cave. When they went down the mountain, it was already sunset. The setting sun cast a red glow over Qingnyo Mountain. Coincidentally, just as they reached the bottom, they met Uncle Shi Zhongtian. He had been with Humazi all day. He had been in great danger because Humazi insisted that someone from their village had killed his men. He was whipped more than 10 times, his head turning purple from the blows. Only then did Humazi let him go. He was in a very bad mood. Suddenly, he saw Shi and Wang Zhijiao coming out of the mountain. Seeing Wang Zhijiao's stunning beauty, his possessiveness grew even stronger. When he looked at his useless nephew, he felt even more angry. He thought, what right does this useless guy have to own such a beautiful girl? In the past, Shi would have come over to bow when he saw him from afar. But now, Shi ignored him and walked toward the small wooden house. Wang Zhijiao also disliked Shi Zhongtian very much. Her aura was naturally cold and distant. She was already in a bad mood, and her jealousy was triggered. Shi Zhongtian immediately adopted an elder's serious attitude. He scolded from behind. Is this how you behave in front of your elders? How did your parents teach you? Come over here right now. I have something to tell you. Go away. Before he finished speaking, Shi directly turned his head and spat out the word, go. This word was like a sharp steel needle, stabbing deeply into Shi Zhongtian's heart. Shi Zhongtian was momentarily stunned, but he quickly became furious. Are you talking to me? You little rascal. You have a lot of guts. Shi turned sharply and stared at him intensely. He looked around, and, seeing no one else, he held the old, tattered Juga crossbow. But Wang Zhijiao gently held his arm. Now isn't the time to kill him. It won't do us any good. It might only bring more trouble. Shi finally suppressed his anger. He nodded and said, let's go home. Wang Zhijiao showed a gentle side for the first time in front of Shi. She nodded in agreement. Then the two turned and left. Shi Zhongtian didn't know that just moments ago, he had almost walked a circle near the gates of death. After Shi left, he cursed a few words behind him. But recalling the fierce look in Shi's eyes when he turned to look at him, like a predator ready to eat him, he inexplicably felt scared and dared not chase after him. Only after Shi was gone, Shi Zhongtian's face darkened. He muttered to himself, what is wrong with this kid these days? Every time I see him, he's bowing and licking up to me. But these past few days, I feel like this kid is dangerous. It's like a life-or-death crisis. Shi Zhongtian couldn't understand why. Because Shi's recent actions were so different from the usual cowardly fool he knew. Finally, he returned home with a gloomy face. As soon as he arrived, his wife Zhang Lixia hurried over. Hubby, how did it go? Is Humazi coming to attack us? Who the heck is doing this? Are they deliberately trying to harm our village? Shi Zhongtian looked up at his wife's face, which was pale and tired. He instinctively compared his wife with Wang Zhijiao. This comparison immediately made him very angry. His attitude was also not good. Doubling the monthly payment. Humazi is just making excuses to hurt our village. Please stop causing trouble outside and behave yourself. Zhang Lixia looked nervous. Doubling the payment? Is Humazi crazy? Is he trying to ruin us? Many people in the village are already talking behind our backs. If we tell them about the doubled payment, those few families might rebel. Shi Zhongtian appears successful on the surface, but is suffering terribly in reality. Seeing Zhang Lixia so loud and restless, he felt even more annoyed. He shouted at her, can you just shut up? Zhang Lixia immediately stopped talking, afraid to say another word, looking anxious like a restless ant. The village was already full of complaints. If they said Humazi wanted to double the payment again, those families would definitely cause trouble, blaming the village chief's incompetence. What should we do? Thinking hard, Zhang Lixia suddenly remembered Shi. Angrily, she said, Master, can we increase Shi's monthly payment a bit? That little rascal is living quite well now. The day before yesterday, he even brought back a wild boar. After selling it, he didn't pay a single coin. Isn't that unfair? Shi Zhongtian's eyes lit up when he heard this. You've just reminded me of something. He called out loudly to the outside. Lu Zhigao hurried in, bowing deeply. But after hearing what Shi Zhongtian and Zhang Lixia said, tears almost came to his eyes. Village chief, I don't want to avoid going, but I will do anything for the village. It's just that Shi has changed so much recently. He's really fierce. A few days ago, he hit me so hard I still have a bump on my head. Now if I go over there, I might. Lu Zhigao, do you forget your own status? Do you think you can make demands of me? Before he finished speaking, Shi Zhongtian interrupted. Lu Zhigao was so scared he knelt down quickly. Master, I dare not. I just hope you can send a few people with me, or I might really get beaten to death. Last time, I felt sure he truly wanted to kill me. You cowardly thing. You scaredy cat. Seeing his appearance, Shi Zhongtian was furious. But what could he do? After kicking him, he said, I'll arrange some people for you. Go find that kid and tell him to send me the money from selling the wild boar. If you can't get it done, then you can leave too. You're useless and cause trouble. Shi Zhongtian quickly called a few more people inside. Soon, Lu Zhigao took some men and rushed to Shi Yi's house. After Shi Yi returned, he cooked himself. He made a lot of mushrooms and bought pork from the town. Even from far away, the delicious smell could be smelled. Third Aunt Wang Guifang and Shi Qianqian sat by the clay pot, eating with their mouths full of oil. It was already dark, and above, the birds that returned late were singing under the starry sky. This feeling was so wonderful that Shi Yi started to enjoy some of the good things in the world. While eating, he finally had a complete plan in his mind. He thought that besides making oil, he could also sell animal pelts from the mountains. There was a high demand for these in the market. Also, this world doesn't have iron tools, and he wanted to make steel. In the past few days in the mountains, he found iron ore, and it was very abundant. But this world doesn't know how to refine it, nor does it have the fuel needed to reach the melting point of iron. So, he still needed to solve the fuel problem. Coal hadn't been used by the people here either, so he suddenly felt that he had great potential in this world. But no matter what he wanted to do, the first thing was to have his own armed force. In this world, if you have no weapons, even if you make a lot of money, you might end up dead. You're just a piece of meat in others' eyes. So, he needed to form a team of loyal fighters for himself. But building such a team also required money. Right now, the most urgent thing was to earn silver. While eating, suddenly, the third ant shouted in a certain direction. Get out here, you sneaky thing. Hiding on the side like a thief. Do you think I can't see you? Shi Yi and Wang Zhijiao looked confused at Wang Guifang. Soon, they saw Lu Zhigao and a few others from the village. They came out from the bushes with a look of hardship. Auntie-san, you're here. I am your mother. Kneel all the way down for me. Wang Guifang had a very fiery temper and shouted at a few people. Hearing this, Lu Zhigao and the others quickly knelt on the ground. Shi Yi was about to say something. Wang Guifang put down her bowl and rushed in front of them. She slapped each of them across the face. The blows made their heads spin and their minds go blank. After a while, Lu Zhigao and the others ran away, crying out loudly, beaten and kicked by Wang Guifang. Wang Guifang cursed loudly behind them. Go back and tell old mother that Shi Zhongtian and his wife. If they dare to come here again, I'll pull out their hair. This dog of a man just can't stand seeing his nephew live a good life. Keeps coming to bother us. He's really no good. After they ran off, she sat back down heavily. Here, don't worry. Annie has thought it through. I won't tolerate your second uncle anymore. At worst, our family will move to town. Your third uncle will find a way to get you into Song Wen Yuan's house, and life will be. Andy, I'm not interested in being anyone's servant, Shi Yi interrupted. Not a servant? Wang Guifang paused, then quickly smiled and said, Then let your third uncle teach you martial arts. All right, Annie, don't worry about my future, Shi Yi said warmly. I've said before, from now on, our family will eat more meat and live with dignity. Then Shi Yi explained clearly what he wanted to do, including asking his third uncle to come back and help. He saw with his own eyes last time that although his third uncle was a bodyguard, he was actually being used like a dog by the butler. It made him uncomfortable. Wang Guifang was stunned, her mouth opening wide. She kept slapping her own face for an hour or two. The feeling of not recognizing Shi Yi came over her again. She even wanted to interrupt him several times, scold him, and ask who he really was. But on the other hand, she suddenly felt hopeful again. She thought that maybe, just maybe, this family could really change dramatically. Brother Gao, are you crying? Why do I feel like you're shedding tears? A small stream formed by mountain spring water runs through the entire village. It is also the main source of drinking water for the villagers. Under the starry sky, The silver moon reflects on the rippling water, looking very cold and clear. Near the waterway, Lu Zhigao and others, who had been slapped countless times by Wang Guifeng, seem to have just escaped a life-threatening situation and are now hiding by the stream. Lu Zhigao looks at the water like night, recalling the moment Wang Guifeng slapped him. He feels very sad and can't control his emotions, tears welling up in his eyes. Despite this, he still stubbornly stares at the small wooden house in the distance. After a long while, he wipes his tears and asks the person who just spoke, Old Four, is my face swollen again? The person called Old Four steps closer and looks at him. Yes, it's quite swollen. Damn it, Wang Guifeng is such a mean woman. Why is her hand so heavy? That slap just now almost dislocated my jaw. Exactly, people from Wangjia village are really not to be messed with. Even their women are rough and tough. Another person touches his face, looking very annoyed. Lu Zhigao's gaze toward the small wooden house becomes even colder. Sure, that beast. I will kill him sooner or later, that bastard. Without Wang Guifeng, he's nothing. Suddenly, just as he finished speaking, a shadow rushes out from behind. It kicks him into the waterway. Then, the shadow jumps into the stream, pressing his head down. Everyone is stunned. The incident happened so suddenly that the others didn't react right away, leaving them momentarily blank. After Old Four reacts, he quickly points at him from afar. Sure, what are you trying to do? Stop it. Yes, the person rushing over is Sure. He didn't hit Lu Zhigao just now, but he was so angry that he came looking for him in the village. He just happened to hear Lu Zhigao insulting him as a bastard. There's no need to be polite about it. He likes Lu Zhigao's rebellious attitude. The others also prepare to rush over to help. But Sure, standing in the middle of the waterway, holds Lu Zhigao's head down with one hand. Suddenly, he turned around quickly and pointed at them. Whoever comes closer, I will kill them. Get lost. For some reason, their appearance stunned the others. One person spoke up. Brother Gao always says that Sure has become a mad dog. It seems to be true. Old Fourth, let's not get involved in this. This is a feud between their master and servant. The person called Old Fourth calmed down. After all, it had nothing to do with him. He and Lu Zhigao are not brothers. After saying this, they quickly turned and ran away. After scolding the others to leave, Sure started pressing Lu Zhigao's head with both hands. Lu Zhigao was desperately resisting, full of a desire to survive. Sure Yi's eyes were bloodshot. For a moment, he really wanted to kill this guy. But his reason told him he couldn't kill the dog now. It would cause trouble and alert others. So, finally, he grabbed his hair and pulled his head up. Ugh, Lu Zhigao finally could breathe. He was being grabbed like a drowning dog, trembling with fear inside. Sure, did you just want to kill me? Smack. Sure, slapped him back and coldly said, Call me young master. Young master. Lu Zhigao was trembling all over, even his pores showing his fear of Sure. He shouted loudly, Let me go? Sorry, from today on, I promise I won't appear in front of you again. You know, I am just your second uncle's dog. Everything I do, my second uncle forced me to do. Sure, ignored him. He dragged him ashore. This guy was quite sensible and quickly knelt down. But Sure grabbed his hair and swung his leg bones a few times. Then he hit his face hard, detail by detail. Lu Zhigao was stunned. His face, swollen from Wang Guifeng's slap, was about to be slapped again. He howled in pain, like a wolf, as if standing in the dark hell with no light. After Sure slapped him more than 10 times, he finally let go. The guy only felt dizzy and weak, lying on the ground, gasping for breath. Sure squatted in front of him. Starting tomorrow, if I see you anywhere near my house again, don't say I killed anyone. You're a treacherous dog who betrayed your master. I have kept you alive only out of mercy. Do you understand? Why, yes. I understand. I won't bother you anymore, young master. Lu Zhigao replied tearfully. Sure then asked, Why did you come to my house today? What do you want? Lu Zhigao sobbed. It's your second uncle. He was cheated at Humazi's place. Then Humazi asked our village to pay extra monthly, because he found out about the wild boar you hunted. So he wants you to give him the money, this scoundrel. After hearing this, Sure frowned and looked toward a large house in the distance. This house was built by his father. It was the biggest house in the village, with 9 rooms, and had always been occupied by Shi Zhongtian. After staring at it for a long time, Shuri muttered, "Just wait. I won't let you live much longer." After saying this, Shuri left. Lu Zhigao's hair stood on end. Only after Shuri was gone did he realize what had happened. He struggled to sit up, looking at Shuri's distant figure. He swallowed hard and thought, this little brat. Does he want revenge on his second uncle? For a moment, he trembled with fear. One night later, Wang Hongtao moved very quickly. Nowadays, outside, many people were starving or begging. Some places even started to eat human flesh. When people are starving to the limit, they will eat anything they can find. No matter their past status, they will abandon all dignity and be at your mercy if they have food. So, yesterday he carried some biscuits and just wandered around the town. Soon, he brought back over 20 people. In the following days, Shuri and his group stayed mostly in that cave. They cut down large trees, and dozens of people worked together. Wang Zhijiao, along with 2 girls, spent every day gathering tea seeds in the mountains. After a few days, inside the cave, everyone gathered around the tools Shuri had directed them to make. Everyone was very nervous. Tea seed cakes were tightly wrapped in straw. At one end, a sturdy man grabbed a wooden beam hanging by a rope. He shouted loudly and charged forward. Bang! The wood hit the tea seed cake. Soon, the tea seed cake wrapped in straw released tea seed oil. Oil. Really oil. Tea seeds can produce oil. Oh heavens, thank you for your blessing. We did it. At the moment the tea seed oil appeared, an old man with white hair ran forward. He pointed at the tea seed oil with his finger. After tasting it, tears streamed down his face. He knelt on the ground, worshipping the sky. In feudal society, life was very hard. People's lives were considered insignificant. But everyone had a strong desire to survive. So they often prayed to the heavens. Wang Zhijiao also stepped forward and tasted the oil flowing out. She looked at Shuri with great shock. Her body was trembling. She was from the capital city and had broad knowledge. She knew how much change this tea seed oil could bring to the entire Dechu. In Dechu, from the emperor's palace to officials and common people, everyone's cooking oil was pig fat. Now, in Dechu markets, the price of fatty pork was 35 coins per gene. 1 gene of pork could produce about half a gene of pig fat. So, the cost of 1 gene of pork was about 70 coins. 1 gene of rice cost only 5 coins. 70 coins was equivalent to 14 gene of rice. Pork had become a luxury for ordinary families. Most families could buy a gene of pork and eat it for several months. They only boiled vegetables in water for soup, then added a little pig fat with chopsticks. Because it was so expensive, no one dared to waste it. And this tea seed was everywhere in the mountains and fields. The raw material cost was almost negligible. Only labor needed to be calculated. This girl came from a large family in Dechu's capital. Because she was a woman, she couldn't go out and show herself. So she often managed the family accounts. She was very familiar with the market business. Thinking about the potential market for this tea seed oil, she felt a shiver down her spine. After a long while, she looked at Shuri. How much do you plan to sell this tea seed oil for? Wang Hongtao and others also held their breath, looking at Shuri. Shuri stood among the crowd, looking at the tea cake wrapped in straw, with drops of tea seed oil. He felt very hopeful. It was as if he saw the silver in this world, falling heavily toward him. He said, "You should have calculated the cost." Wang Zhijiao nodded. Including labor, about 2 coins per gene of oil. 2 coins. Even pork now sells for over 30 coins per gene. This oil's cost is surprisingly low. Inside the cave, everyone suddenly burst into excitement, full of joy. Shuri raised his hand to quiet the others. The cave became silent. Everyone looked at him eagerly. Shuri stood on a stone and said, "Dear villagers, do you want to eat meat every day and never go hungry again?" When they heard, "never go hungry," their faces turned red with hope. Wang Hongtao said, "The government doesn't care about us. None of us want to starve." "Yes, young Master Shuri, we don't want to go hungry." Suddenly, everyone became very excited. Shuri was among them, acting like a leader from his world. He raised his arm and shouted, "Kings, princes, and generals, who dares to challenge us?" He kept repeating a phrase. "From today, we work together, eat well, and survive together." The people below listened, their energy like they had been injected with chicken blood. In these times, whoever can give a good meal will gain loyal followers. Because it's a life-saving kindness. Everyone was shouting along with Shi, demanding to eat well and live. He became their hero, and everyone looked at him with hope. Their eyes were red with excitement. Wang Zhijiao quietly watched all this from the side. She didn't say much, but gradually, she felt a special charm from Shi. In her mind, she thought of the noble sons from the great families in the capital of Dechu. They were all very talented. But at this moment, in Wang Zhijiao's eyes, none of them matched Shi. She became more curious about him. First, he made that strange crossbow. Not long after, this man used tea seeds to extract oil again. Who hadn't heard of such things? Who wasn't about to change the world? Behind them, Shi told them many things. First, our production base must never be known to outsiders. If it gets out, we could all be in great danger. Because the benefits are too big. Everyone here understands this clearly. They are all on the brink of starvation, and Shi has pulled them back from death. So, everyone sees Shi as their greatest benefactor. Second, Shi selected a few young people. They are preparing to form a daring crossbow team. Until now, Wang Zhijiao, who had been quietly listening, suddenly felt Shi's big ambitions. It turns out this man is not content just to survive. Her heart inexplicably became excited. It was like finding a faint glimmer of hope in a dark night of hatred. Although very weak, she was extremely excited. Half an hour later, Shi's motivational speech ended. Inside the cave, dozens of people started working on production enthusiastically. Shi called Wang Hongtao outside and told him a lot. The main idea was, I've given you the method to make crossbows. You are a carpenter, so from today, you don't need to do anything else. Just focus on making crossbows for me. Do it quickly, because once our tea seed oil sells well, people will definitely come looking for trouble. We must have our own armed forces to protect ourselves. Shi had already discussed this with Wang Hongtao long ago. So Wang Hongtao patted his chest and said there was no problem. After that, Wang Hongtao didn't dare delay and hurried off to do his work. After he left, Wang Zhijiao approached and said, "Don't sell it at the market yet." Shi's eyes lit up, and he looked at her. "Why?" Wang Zhijiao said, "There are several wealthy families in town with complicated relationships. They all have connections with the local officials. If they find out about this oil, they will definitely come to kill to keep it quiet and steal our formula. So, who do you think I should sell it to first? I can't just not sell it. I need to make money to support you," Shi said with a smile. In the past, Wang Zhijiao might have been a bit resistant. But unexpectedly, at this moment, when Shi said this, a warm feeling rose in her heart. The icy mountain in her eyes had already collapsed halfway, but she still remained as cold as ice as before. Can be sold to the Western Gate Army. The world is cold and harsh, corrupt officials run wild, and the court is controlled by eunuchs, creating a smoky, chaotic atmosphere. Even so, the border of Great Chu remains peaceful, because the border troops are guarding it. I hope they can eat well and defend our homeland. Also, military procurement usually involves large orders, which can save us a lot of extra costs. Furthermore, if we trade with the Western Gate Army, it can help you build connections within the military. This will be very beneficial for your future. I want to say, we are in perfect sync, thinking the same thing. Do you believe that? In the gentle mountain breeze, Shi smiled warmly at Wang Zhijiao. Wang Zhijiao paused and asked, "What do you mean by perfect sync? Also, have you already thought of a way out?" Shi looked at Wang Zhijiao, and the more he looked, the more he liked her. In his past life, women's looks and intelligence were often inversely related, especially women like Wang Zhijiao, who were delicate and fruitful. People often described them as big-breasted but not very smart. But he found that Wang Zhijiao was much smarter than others. In this feudal society where men are superior to women, a woman with such strategy is truly rare. He smiled and said, "I never do things without a plan. The situation inside the village is complicated. Stay here until I return. I can be assured of your safety." After speaking, Shi left. He and Wang Zhijiao had a good understanding. He had already thought of supplying the Western Gate Army early in the morning. No matter the era, as long as you successfully integrate into the military circle, it's like having muscles on your body. So he planned to visit the Western Gate Army again, find that key person, and have a good talk about tea seed oil. He also knew Wang Zhijiao's cold personality. She wouldn't respond to his concern. But he was wrong. After he turned and walked dozens of yards down the mountain path, Wang Zhijiao, standing tall and elegant behind him, quietly said one word. Okay, until she watched Shi disappear into the dense forest ahead. Wang Zhijiao turned and entered the cave. She now saw hope for revenge in Shi. So, when the first batch of tea seed oil was pressed, she decided not to leave anymore. She was determined to stay by Shi's side peacefully. In her mind, only revenge mattered. As long as Shi could help her get revenge, she was willing to marry him. Because she couldn't forget the scene of her entire family, hundreds of people, being forced outside the Great Chu Palace, with heads being cut off one by one. Those people were the most important in her life. You're not Shi Kang's unwise nephew, are you? What are you doing here in the military camp? Who told you to come? Outside the rear camp of the Western Gate Army. Shi was carrying a clay oil jar, having just arrived here. Next to him, someone touched his sharp, sarcastic, and bossy mustache. Squinting with an air of superiority, he looked at Shi with a sarcastic attitude. Shi recognized this person. It was Wu, the housekeeper from the Song family. There was another person beside him, also holding a clay oil jar. He probably understood what was going on. He didn't want to cause trouble with this person, especially since his third uncle still depended on the Song family. So he politely bowed and said, "Hello, Housekeeper Wu." Housekeeper Wu looked at Shi's attitude and found it acceptable. His commanding demeanor slightly softened. He nodded, but seeing the clay oil jar in Shi's hand, he frowned and asked, "Are you here to deliver oil to the Western Gate Army?" "Yes, Housekeeper Wu," Shi replied. Housekeeper Wu smiled. "You're also in the grain and oil business?" "Yes," Shi answered. Wu couldn't hold back his laughter. He burst out laughing. "Boy, do you even know what you're talking about? All the grain, oil, and cloth in Western Town are controlled by 4 families. Our Song family's leather and oil, the Zhou family's rice shop, the Zhang family's horses, the Lu family's cloth. For so many years, anyone who dared to compete with these 4 families in business. Housekeeper Wu, I only run a small shop. I can't compare to your 4 big families. I just want to earn a living under your noses," Shi politely interrupted. "Good that you know your place." Wu was displeased. His condescending attitude flared up again, reaching its peak. In his eyes, Shi was just an insignificant stray dog, utterly unremarkable. Just one glance at him was a blessing for Shi, a result of his ancestors' good deeds. Just as Wu was about to say more, the person from the campfire team he saw last time stepped out. He spoke up and said, "Housekeeper Wu, bring your things in so I can see them." Housekeeper Wu looked down on Shi, but in front of the military officer, he was like an obedient dog. That confident attitude from before quickly changed into a flattering smile. He took small steps and hurried over to the officer. "Sir, have you been well these days?" The officer slightly frowned, probably not liking him. But he still replied politely, "Go inside, don't waste time. Now, the supplies are running low, so don't waste time." Housekeeper Wu quickly responded. But then, the officer suddenly looked at Shi. He stared for a moment. He suddenly remembered the clever young man who once brought wild boar meat. He smiled and said, "Young man, why are you here?" Hearing this, Housekeeper Wu's eyes nearly popped out. He thought, how does this young man know the officer from the Western Gate Army? The officer seemed very familiar with him. Wu was afraid to speak, feeling nervous and trembling. He just couldn't understand. Shi quickly stepped forward and bowed. "Sir, I brought some special oil from our mountain to show you." "Special oil?" The officer looked at the ceramic oil jar in Shi's hand with curiosity. After a moment, he patted Shi's shoulder cheerfully. "All right, I'll call you later. Wait here for a bit." Shi bowed again, full of respect. This made the officer feel very good about him. But what the officer didn't notice was that Shi's respectful and awe-filled gaze suddenly shifted to Wu Housekeeper, who looked a bit dazed. In just a moment, Wu Housekeeper felt Shi's eyes full of challenge. He suddenly got very angry. This kid, last time at my Song family estate, acted like a dog the whole time. And just now, too. Now, what does he mean by looking at me like that? Before he could react, Shi's expression suddenly turned into a strange smile. Wu Housekeeper felt humiliated by Shi. He immediately got furious and said, "Kid, do you believe I'll gouge out your eyes?" The officer turned around in confusion. He saw Shi had returned to his cautious and careful attitude. He suddenly became angry and shouted at Steward Wu. "Why did you gouge his eyes?" Steward Wu, visibly upset, replied, "Master, That young man provoked me just now. He turned to look at Shuri. Shuri quickly lowered his head. Master, I am just a simple villager. I dare not cause trouble. He looked at Shuri's expression. He turned and shouted, he provoked you. Are you crazy? Your Song family is so proud. Someone just looked at you, and you think they are insulting you. Then you want revenge. Do you really think your Song family controls everything in the western gate of Dechu? A small steward like you is so arrogant. With a thud, Steward Wu was just a dog of the Song family. He dared not offend the army. Seeing Firehead so angry, he quickly knelt and kowtowed. Master, my Song family has no such intention. Please, see clearly. The Western Gate Army is defending the country. Without them, the people might have been wiped out by the Western D, my Song family. Enough. I find these words annoying. Firehead looked disgusted. Old dog, watch your words outside from now on. Bring me your things to see. Yes, 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 master. Steward Wu was suddenly scared. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He got up and couldn't help wiping his forehead. But inside, he was furious and annoyed. He felt like Shuri was playing him, so he glared fiercely at him. But Shuri just stared back silently, with a mocking smile on his face. He made a silent mouth movement. Old dog. It was strange. Shuri didn't make any sound, but Wu Steward understood perfectly. Almost losing control, Wu Steward rushed toward Shuri. But the master's attitude earlier made him hesitate. So he could only swallow his anger like biting into a piece of old dog dung. Even if it was uncomfortable, he had to hold it in and digest it. His hand trembled as he pointed at Shuri. Little brat, wait and see. When I come out, I'll kill you. Wild villager, how dare you act so arrogantly in front of me? You've gone too far. He was quite anxious as he carried the clay oil jar into the military tent. Today, he was here to deliver a sample of oil. He must be careful. Most supplies for the Western Gate Army are provided by a few local noble families. The oil has been supplied by the Song family for many years. But now, due to a severe drought, the Daching court is giving less support to the border troops. This time, the border soldiers asked the Song family to lower the price of pig fat. There was no choice. The Song family had to find new sources of pigs elsewhere. Recently, they brought back a batch of pigs from the Western Dike area. People there don't eat pork, so the prices are very low. Because they needed to change suppliers, the soldiers in the camp had to check the oil from these pigs. If it was good, the Song family would supply this batch of pig fat in the future. Today was very important. Everything was going smoothly. Although the camp leader didn't like this dog, as long as the oil was good and the price lowered, that was enough. Inside the tent, the camp leader pointed at the pig fat and tasted it in his mouth. Housekeeper Wu, what price does your young master Song plan to sell at? Housekeeper Wu saw that the camp leader wasn't making things difficult and quickly replied, General, in the past, we sold it for 65 coins per gene. This oil, the master said, without the Western Gate Army, there would be no Song family. We must do our best, even risking everything, to support the soldiers defending our land. So, we are offering this pig fat at 60 coins per gene to support the border troops. When the camp leader heard this, his face darkened. He knew about the batch of pigs the Song family had brought back from the Western Dike. There were rumors among traders that the Song family bought the pigs for just over 10 coins per gene, very cheaply. He had thought that the Song family would lower the price significantly, but they only lowered it a little, without much effort. Was this a way of dismissing them like beggars? But he couldn't say anything, because the Song family had indeed lowered the price. And he knew that the Song family had connections above him. He didn't dare to offend them openly. He just frowned and asked, Housekeeper Wu, are you sure this is the lowest price? Housekeeper Wu looked a bit bitter and said, General, we are offering this at no profit. Please check carefully. Since it had come to this, the camp leader was in a difficult spot. Just then, someone stumbled in from outside, looking very nervous. He whispered something into the cook's ear. The cook coughed hard in surprise, then looked at the man in disbelief. Is that true? It's true, boss. He's already in the kitchen, and we're testing his skills. And there's a faint smell of tea. All right, let's go see. The cook couldn't stay calm anymore. He quickly stood up and jogged out, not even greeting Butler Wu. Butler Wu was confused and planned to ask what was going on, but the cook had already left the tent. A servant, looking uneasy, asked, Butler Wu, are the Western tribes attacking? Why did the cook suddenly get so nervous? How should I know? Butler Wu muttered, feeling uneasy himself. The servant didn't dare to speak again. Butler Wu murmured, could it be that some family in the city is trying to take our deal? He began to feel anxious. In the kitchen, Shi was standing in front of a large pot, stirring with a spatula. The clay pot sizzled with fragrant oil, giving off a refreshing tea-like aroma that lifted everyone's spirits. When the cook arrived, several dishes were already on the table. A few soldiers from the cooking unit were tasting them, praising them non-stop. Earlier, at the entrance, Shi had guessed why Butler Wu had come. So, after they entered the tent, he quickly slipped a few coins to the guards and went straight into the kitchen to cook. After tasting the food, everyone was amazed by the fresh aroma. Someone asked, what kind of oil is this? Shi replied, tea seed oil. Tea seed oil? Yes. How is it made? Sorry, it's a family secret. Oh, and what's the price? 10 coins. 10 coins. Everyone was stunned. Feeding 200,000 soldiers was already a huge expense. The royal support from Great Chu was getting smaller each day. The higher-ups had been pressuring the kitchen to cut costs. That was why the cook had been looking for every possible way to save money. However, the pig fat sent by Officer Song was slightly cheaper by 5 coins per gene, but what use could it have? Right now, this new tea seed oil was only selling for 10 coins per gene. This greatly reduced the military's expenses. So, the people here hurriedly went to find the firehead. When the firehead arrived here, he looked at Shi nervously and asked, little brother, are you sure it's only 10 coins? Yes, sir. I'm sure. Shi nodded and bowed to him. Western Gate Army, defending the country. Protecting the country is everyone's duty. Although I can't go to the battlefield, I can serve the country in other ways. So, I am not earning a single coin from the Western Gate Army. It's purely voluntary work. The firehead was excited and asked, are you sure this oil can replace pig fat and be edible? Shi made a gesture inviting him to try a dish nearby. Sir, you'll know after trying it. The firehead didn't dare to delay. He quickly took a bite of the stir-fried greens and put it in his mouth. In an instant, a burst of tea aroma filled his nose. Then it exploded in his mouth, making him feel refreshed and alert. This flavor was completely different from pig fat. Suddenly, the firehead's mood became excited. He carefully tasted again and confirmed, is it really only 10 coins per gene? Sir, I told you. Defending the country is everyone's duty. Supplying the army and making a profit? That's like inviting disaster. Lightning striking the ancestral grave on a thunderous day. Shi looked determined. Those who didn't know might think he was about to grab a sword and rush to the battlefield to fight the Western dwarfs. Such loyalty and patriotism. The firehead and others were so moved they almost cried, because this would greatly ease the pressure on the kitchen. The firehead quickly asked, how much can you supply each day? You should know, a force of 200,000 consumes a lot daily. Shi thought for a moment and said, initially, the supply won't be very large, about 50 gene a day, but I promise it will increase daily until it meets the entire army's needs. Good. 50 gene to start, and increase later. Be quick. My 200,000 soldiers need at least 2,000 gene of oil daily. The firehead was in a good mood and spoke little by little. Sure, he was a bit stunned listening, because he thought that the daily oil consumption for the Western Pass Army would be at least 10,000 gene. Unexpectedly, a force of 200,000 only used 2,000 gene of oil. This is something a modern person like him cannot understand. It shows that during a severe drought, ordinary people are suffering. Life in the army is also difficult. But sure, he couldn't figure out why the supply of grain and oil to the border troops was so low during wartime. From this, he inferred that there must be some problem in the capital of Great Chu. Suddenly, sure, he also felt some sympathy for the soldiers of this era. Later, he continued to discuss deeply with Hudo. Sure, he is a very clever person. He didn't come just to recommend his tea seed oil this time. He also brought a few pounds of edible mushrooms from the mountains. He knew that food in the army was also tight. They needed cheap and tasty ingredients. Mushrooms and fungi are everywhere in Qingyo Mountain. Because no one used them, they are almost overgrown. These ingredients could be used and supplied to the army. He originally thought of selling a pound of mushrooms for 1 coin to the Western Pass Army, regardless of type. But after hearing Hudo say that their 200,000 troops only consumed 2,000 gene of oil daily, he felt some pity for the soldiers who shed their blood for the country. So, he offered to supply at a price of 1 coin and 2 gene of mushrooms. At first, Huodo and others didn't dare try the mushrooms Shuri brought, because they thought such things could be deadly. But after Shuri ate some in front of them without any harm, they also started to try. Sure enough, after a short while, they all praised the mushrooms. With cheap oil and affordable ingredients, the Western Pass Army situation was no longer just about easing pressure. As long as they reported it, the entire Huoto camp would likely be rewarded. Their duty was to arrange the soldiers' lives well, to feed every soldier with the least amount of money. Now that they had both oil and ingredients, how could they not be excited? So, later, several key leaders in the Huoto camp also came to hear the news. Shuri stood in the kitchen, patiently explaining about these edible mushrooms to a few leaders. After tasting them, each of the leaders immediately agreed to supply goods from Shuri. They also gave him a token that allowed him to enter and leave the military camp freely. From now on, when delivering goods, he could use this token to come and go as he pleased. Time slowly passed. Inside the tent, Steward Wu grew more and more anxious. After half an hour, someone came to inform them that they could leave now. As for the pig fat, the camp still needed to discuss it further. Steward Wu was very panicked. He kept asking questions, but no one paid attention to him. Frustrated, he was finally chased out. Despite being driven out, Steward Wu did not give up. He kept pleading at the camp gate, but no one responded. Another hour passed. Just as Steward Wu was about to go home and report to Master Song, Shuri suddenly came out of the tent, smiling happily and feeling refreshed. The business deal was now settled. The leaders of the camp told him that the amount he supplied would match the military's needs in the future. Having crossed into this world, Shuri had solved his first survival problem. As long as he became an important supplier of supplies to the Western Pass Army, he would be protected by them. Of course, he kept some secrets and didn't tell others where his cooking oil was produced. He knew he had to be cautious. Shuri didn't know much about the top levels of the Western Pass Army. He believed that tea seed oil could change the world. Just thinking about it, he understood how huge the benefits behind this product could be. He wouldn't foolishly reveal everything to others. After leaving the tent, Shuri saw Steward Wu nearby. He ignored him and prepared to leave. But Wu, noticing Shuri's confident stride, couldn't hold back. He stepped in front of him, blocking his way. Gritting his teeth and with a fierce look, Wu said, "You little brat, tell me the truth. Did you betray the Song family's business behind my back? What did you do?" He could only lift his head and say, "Your family's business has nothing to do with me. I don't know what you're talking about." You still refuse to admit it. You insist on me hitting you a few times before you'll tell the truth, right? Manager Wu was in a bad mood. Thinking about Shuri's repeated provocations earlier, he couldn't hold back anymore. He started to roll up his sleeves. Shuri saw he was about to make a move. In a flash, he slapped Manager Wu hard across the face. The sound was crisp and clear. The slap was quite forceful and caught Manager Wu off guard. Because he had no warning, after the slap, he staggered to the side and took a moment to steady himself. Compared to the burning pain on his face, Manager Wu felt more insulted by the slap itself. He looked at Shuri in disbelief. He never expected this wild villager to dare to hit the esteemed manager of the Song family. His mind was slow to react, and he covered his face, looking at Shuri. "Little brat, how dare you hit me? Did you really hit me just now?" Bang! Before he could finish speaking, Shuri slapped him again. "Who else but me would hit you? That old servant who relies on power. Last time at the Song family estate, I already disliked you. Just wait, I'll beat you to death." Seeing this guy, Manager Wu was not only unafraid but also became more aggressive, raising his hand to slap again. He was so angry his voice cracked, sharp and piercing. "You little thief, I am the chief manager of the Song family. Do you know what happens if you hit me?" Shuri rushed forward and slapped him across the face again. "I am still a wild villager from Qingniu Mountain, barefoot. What? Afraid of you wearing shoes? This is the biggest joke in the world. It's simply unbelievable. Old servant, if you have the guts, don't run away from me." Shuri chased after Manager Wu in the street, hitting him. The guards and soldiers at the kitchen door were stunned. Their jaws almost dropped to the ground. After a while, one of them pointed at the person chasing and hitting Manager Wu. "That young brother, just now, he was polite at the door, very low-key. How come now?" Another swallowed hard and said, "I don't know either." And so it went. Shi slapped Steward Wu in the street. That day, the whole town was shocked. The four big families were hated because they looked down on people's lives, and the poor in town all despised them. But their servants were even more hated because they often bullied others in the town. They were like typical vicious dogs. Many common people, upon hearing this, felt unexpectedly happy. They thought, where did this hero come from? Protecting the people from harm. At first, Shi tolerated this old servant because he was worried about affecting his third uncle. But after leaving the camp, he couldn't hold back anymore, because he had already negotiated the business in the army. His business was settled, and his third uncle would follow him to enjoy a good life. Would he still care about so many things? So he kept hitting the old servant, showing off his bold and proud style. However, third Uncle Shirkong was very upset. At this moment, he was on his way back to the village, cursing loudly. Steward Wu, you old dog. I knew you didn't like me from the start. You want to drive me out of the Song family, but why make such a ridiculous excuse? You're saying my son E hit you. My son E was raised by me with great care. I don't know his personality. He's honest and straightforward. How could he do such a thing as hitting someone in the street? Old dog. From now on, Shirkong and you are enemies for life. He was so angry that he even falsely accused E. That's right. After Shi slapped Steward Wu many times in the street, Wu returned to the Song family with a swollen face. The first thing he did was gather some servants and throw Shirkang's belongings out of the house. He knew Shirkong still had people in the Song family, but since Shirkang's nephew had beaten him so badly, how could he expect fairness? Wu was completely crazy now. On the way back, Shirkong cursed loudly, but his heart was heavy. In these harsh times, survival pressure was greater than anything. He had lost a steady income, and he wondered what his family would do. After his older brother died, he had always considered Shi as his own son. He thought that if he stayed in the Song family for a few more years, he could save some money. When Shi's child is born, as the elder in the family, he can help Shi. Now, he is no longer on duty. The second person in the village has once again become a troublemaker. He has been targeting everywhere. What should this family do? Shirkong feels very heavy-hearted. When he reaches the door of his home, it is already late. He suddenly takes a deep breath and thinks, maybe I should learn from Humazi too. Gather a group of people and become outlaws. That might be the only way. He also worries about how to explain to his wife and children that he was driven out by the Song family. After making his decision, he returns home. But after calling at the door for a while, he sees no one. Where did they go? At this time, Gui Fong and the children should be resting at home. Or did something happen? He feels nervous. Because Humazi's people were killed, Humazi went crazy. He knows about Humazi's search in the mountains. He fears something might go wrong. He quickly runs to Shi's house. As soon as he arrives, he sees Wang Zhijiao carrying a basket, about to leave. He quickly speaks, Zhijiao, and the others. Third uncle, they are all safe in the mountains. Wang Zhijiao interrupts directly. In the mountains? Hunting, Shirkong is confused. Wang Zhijiao shakes her head. Come with me. They are very busy. After saying that, she turns and walks toward the mountain trail. Shirkong is even more confused and doesn't understand. He follows behind. Wang Zhijiao has a cold personality, so she speaks very little. Shirkong keeps talking, like a typical elder in the family, planning the future for Shi and Wang Zhijiao. He says, after your child is born, I will take care of your aunt. He also says, once we save some money, we will hold a wedding for you. Although bought you back, since you entered our family, you are part of the Shi family. As long as we have food, you will have food. Others have things you can't be without, and what others don't have, our family will try to give you. Wang Zhijiao has not spoken all this time, but inside she feels warm. Suddenly, she remembers her own family members. Aren't the elders around her all like this? Sometimes, I talk a lot and go on, which can be quite annoying. But when you think about it carefully, you feel a strange warmth inside. It's just that everyone has left. The forest is quiet, and the night is deep and still. Shirkong didn't notice that Wang Zhijiao, who had not spoken all along, was there. On her cold and beautiful face, tears flowed down. They fell like clear, sparkling beads. After about 2 or 3 incense sticks worth of time, Wang Zhijiao took Shirkong to a cave. Shirkong heard sounds inside. He was very confused and asked, Zhijiao, Are they all inside this cave? Yes, uncle. They are all here. Wang Zhijiao quickly adjusted her emotions, showing no sign of her feelings. Shirkong was focused on his wife and children, so he eagerly went into the cave. Just as he stepped inside, Xiao Duya's braid-wearing daughter, Qianqian, ran out quickly. Dad, you're back. Hug. Shirkong picked up his daughter. But his mind was not on her. He looked around the cave in confusion. He couldn't process what he saw for a moment. Dozens of people, shirtless, moving back and forth working. Some men were shaking a piece of wood. They were hitting a tea seed cake wrapped in straw with a loud bang. Over there, a big fire was burning. They were steaming tea seeds on top. On another side, people were wrapping tea seeds in straw. Everything was busy and lively. Oil. That's oil. How can they get oil from tea seeds? When Shirkong saw the oil dripping from the other side, he immediately put down his daughter. He ran over excitedly. He pointed at the oil and tasted it with his finger. He was very shocked. Is this edible oil? Shirkong couldn't believe it. In these times, grain and oil were very valuable, even more than gold or silver. Shirkong was a servant in a big household, working as a guard. The main business of the Song family was edible oil. He knew deeply what it would mean if they could make edible oil. Most importantly, this oil was pressed from tea seeds, which were everywhere in the mountains. This oil could be produced repeatedly and in large quantities. Shuri came over and smiled, saying, Yes, uncle, come here. Let me explain it to you carefully. Okay. You tell me everything clearly. You kid. How did you manage to cause such a big problem without saying a word? After speaking, he quickly pulled Shuri aside. Soon, the uncle and nephew were both at the side. 1 instant stick's worth of time passed. 2 instant sticks worth of time passed. As time went on, Shirkang's expression became more exaggerated. Sometimes he opened his mouth wide. Sometimes he looked shocked. Sometimes he couldn't help but put his hand on Shuri's forehead. He was checking if his nephew had a fever. This was really surprising. In the past few days, his nephew had given him many strange and surprising feelings. He had never seen anyone change so much in one night. Did he suddenly become enlightened? He wondered how his nephew came up with the method of pressing the tea seed oil. So he kept asking himself this question. Shuri, on the other hand, thought he had a dream. In the dream, a fairy told him something. It was unlikely that the fairy told him, I come from a highly advanced society in another civilization. If he said that, Shirkong would probably quickly think he was possessed or cursed and call the old gods to perform a ritual. He wanted to see if he was bewitched. But no matter what, seeing is believing. After suppressing his shock inside, Shirkang's nose twitched, and as a grown man, tears suddenly came to his eyes. Seeing this, Shuri quickly said, Third uncle, what are you doing? We were talking nicely. Why are you suddenly crying? Shirkong wiped his tears and said, You don't understand. I feel hope for this family. Do you know what your father worried about the most when he passed away? He was afraid that your honest and simple nature would make it hard for you to survive. But now, you found your way. Shuri listened and fell silent again. Then Shirkong opened his heart and told him everything he had thought about on the way back. He originally planned to bring his nephew's wife and a few others from the village to band together and become bandits. But now, he didn't need to do that. However, he quickly became nervous again and said, The grain, oil, cloth, and other supplies in Shirguan town are all controlled by the 4 big families. Any outsider wanting to run such a business in Shirguan town will be attacked and robbed midway. We've extracted the oil. Where should we sell it? Hearing this, Shuri smiled mysteriously. Uncle, if I supply this oil to the Western Gate Army, do you think the 4 big families will dare to attack us? It's not that Shuri is overly confident, but he looks down on the so-called 4 big families from his heart. To put it bluntly, in my world, I grew up under the red flag, feeling the glow of the proletariat. I'm not afraid of a few country folks from a small town in your world. You are like mountains that the common people in this town can't cross. But in my heart, you're nothing. It's not arrogance. Reborn, he doesn't belong to this world. He comes with the eyes of God. I can be polite to people in your world, but that doesn't mean I see you the same way. A few country bumpkins. Shuri definitely doesn't take them seriously. Military. Have you contacted the military? Shirkong was once again surprised. He felt his nephew had given him too many surprises. Shuri nodded. Shirkong kept asking questions eagerly. Until finally, The man in the cave burst into a wild smile. Ha! Old Wu, you kicked me out of the Song family, but little did you know, I found a way back home. My nephew's actions now will eventually replace you. The Song family, old dog. I will see with my own eyes how you bow and scrape before me. While saying this, Shi sensed his third uncle's frustration nearby. Although their levels of civilization are different, the essence is the same. Middle-aged people's survival pressure is greater than the sky. The village doesn't allow him to survive, so he can only serve the wealthy landowners. Butler Wu is like the management in his world, exploiting and humiliating your dignity in every way. For the sake of his wife and children behind him, those who should have had great ambitions are worn down and have no temper left. Enduring and accepting. Finally seeing hope for a turnaround. How could this man suppress his emotions? Shuri was about to say something, but Shirkong suddenly shouted, do you know? That dog servant went to great lengths to drive me out of the Song family. He even fabricated the fact that you hit him. You say someone as clever as me would easily believe that my nephew hit him. Although I don't know who made his face swell, I firmly believe my nephew is kind and compassionate. He would never do something like hitting someone in the street. This really makes me angry. If you want to drive me out, just say so. Why are you trying to slander my nephew? Coughs after hearing this. Shuri swallowed his words and said nothing. Feeling a bit awkward, he said, Third uncle, let's not get involved in this matter. Just believe one thing. No one in our family will go hungry. Not only will no one go hungry, but I will also make sure more people don't starve. Yes, from now on, our lives depend on the master. While Shuri was speaking honestly, an old man nearby couldn't help but get excited. His words ignited everyone's emotions in the scene. Suddenly, everyone working inside became very excited. Under this wave of enthusiasm, Shuri felt a strong urge to give inspiring words, like chicken soup. He stood on a special stone he used to share his wisdom. Then he gave another passionate speech. People in this world are very simple. They can't resist the chicken soup and big pancake that Shuri brought from his world. So everyone cheered loudly, inspired by him. It was as if they had raised a big banner. The so-called noble kings and generals, who think they are superior, were trampled and humiliated by them. But just as they cheered loudly, outside the cave, Wang Hongtao rushed in looking scared. Tiger, tiger. Brother E, we've disturbed the tiger. It's already chasing us here. Tiger. Wang Hongtao's sudden appearance immediately made the whole cave tense. Shuri, to prevent the villagers from knowing what they were doing, had chosen this remote cave. In the mountain, places like this are always home to tigers and wild animals. Everyone was always on edge, but they had prepared early. He quickly waved to someone nearby. A few strong young men immediately came over. These people have all been equipped with Zhuge crossbows in recent days. They formed a temporary guard team. Shuri waved his hand. The others immediately ran out. After Shirkong realized this, he also wanted to go. But Wang Zhijiao quickly grabbed him. Third uncle, Shuri and the others have bows, but you don't. Better not go. How can that be? The tiger on Qingyo Mountain is very fierce. If something happens to E, enough. Stop causing trouble. E and the others are well prepared. Going there would just be a burden for you. Wang Guifeng also hurried over, pulling him along. She was not worried at all because she had seen the power of the bow in the cave over the past few days. Shirkong was worried about Shuri's safety and insisted on going. In her excitement, Wang Guifeng suddenly grabbed Shirkang's ear and dragged him inside. Shirkong, can you listen to me? Guifeng, let go. There are so many people watching.